Guys, okay, right.
Right.
Right, let's
Before
go.
we start, I just need to know, both of you, have you got this?
You got this? Yeah.
I've
You
got
got
it.
this.
Dan, you got it?
I got it. I
Right.
got it. No, Tony's got this. I got this.
We both got it.
Yeah. I think we've all got this. Hello and welcome to episode 477 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher,
Hello.
and a man whose only transport he ever takes is a Marvel omnibus. It's Tony Esmond.
Hey.
Ever changing.
So, welcome to the show, everyone.
Morning.
We got no guests this week, but we do have a bunch of comic talk. We've got a couple of questions from our lovely listeners to read out. I offered forth a question to the chaps, got them thinking just before we recorded that, actually.
Yeah, and we got another one. I offered one as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we got several
And
different.
then we got a
talking
little
points.
subject talking point as well.
Yeah. So after a long hot summer, actually it's a bit cooler now where I am. Is it cooler where you guys are?
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. Style Council's only a good song.
Really?
Not summer.
Yeah. Sing it.
No.
The weird thing was he made this movement. Did you see that, Dan?
Yeah.
Like he wanted to sing it.
Checked himself. Tony was like, I got this.
Yeah.
He was like, no, don't stop.
Well, the Style Council, I like the jam, and then he went, I'm going to do the Style Council. And we're like, fuck off, what is this shit?
Da, 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 da.
You're you're boating now. What the fuck is happening? You're just having tear ups in chip shops about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, that's what's probably going to happen in this show. It'll just completely change.
We'll just go jazz.
Yes.
From punk to jazz.
Yeah.
We're kind of locked in by our name now, aren't we? We're not going to be able to.
People do move over to jazz in their later years, don't they? I don't mind a bit of jazz, freeform jazz.
Do you?
Yeah, occasionally I'll have a bit of jazz on.
Wow.
I like their magazines the best.
Yeah. I did notice, like when I was at your place, I did see a lot of jazz mags there.
Yeah,
Different
there's a
magazines.
lot about Chet Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of blowing.
Heritage
Anyway,
Baker.
welcome to the sax. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Morning.
Like I said, plenty of comic talk. We're in a funny old mood this week. It's been one of those weeks, so keep with us for the next hour and a half to 2 hours of comic talks, comic rants. Tomic. I always said, what am I doing? This is
But just keep going.
Thanks.
You roll with it.
But of course, these topics keep the conversation going because I think there's a couple of questions that everyone will have sort of opinions on, views on, suggestions, etc. So I'm going to say it straight at the front. Join the Slack community. It's great. There's loads of great people on there, loads of great channels, and it's a great way to keep the comic conversation going because comics it stays alive by conversations these days. Actually, I think.
It was interesting reading from last
Yeah.
week on the pod when we was talking about like comic collecting and reading people's
I got a
messages
lot
on Slack
of chat
about
that did.
how they started collecting, what their collection's like, and everyone's got their story, and it's great to listen to it. Every all of them are unique.
Yeah. And it was great to see. So listen to last week's episode if you haven't caught up already, because that was fascinating. Probably something we
A very greeting card way to start, isn't it? Everyone's got a unique story.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. You know what else is nice? This show's
Me
got a
holding
sponsor.
a potted plant in the garden.
Oh, that's lovely. That is. Why would you do that though? And just
All coming soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
You'll find out more about that later. But right now, you can find out about our lovely sponsor, Global Comics. Yes, they are the place to go for digital comics. We love them. We use the service all the time and the apps, and whether it be on your phone, your iPad, or even a web browser. It's easy to use. And if you go on Global Comics, there's a huge library of titles available to read from thousands of indie creators to hundreds of publishers like Image, Boom, Tokyo Pop, TKO Studios, SourcePoint Press, Mad Cave Comics, Humanoids, to name a few. And the catalogue is still growing. I got a little message that I believe Geiger number 4 has just been added to it.
Oh,
Is
fantastic!
it? Is it on there now? Is it?
I'm not sure if it's just hit, but it's on the notifications. So that must mean it's on.
Oh, it
I've got
should be then.
I've got 96 notifications.
See, I'm not a mad lad, but we'll find out why Dan's got those
Yeah.
notifications in a moment. But what else have you spotted on the app?
Well,
this week, guys?
I've been enjoying the collection of Monster War, written by Christopher Golden and Tom Snigowski, art by Joyce Chim and Victor Ishimura, with a phenomenal cover by my boy Joseph Michael Linsner. That's who I buy covers. If there's a variant and he's on it, I'll buy his stuff.
Did you ever used to read Dawn?
Yeah, I liked it. That was
That
kind
was
of his thing,
he
wasn't
was
it?
an artist, another one of those artists that we're going to mention.
Massive 90s thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wizard.
Yeah.
a wizard. Yeah, he was always featured.
Got to meet him at Charlotte. 2 years ago. He's a big geezer. Fuck me.
Really?
Don't take
Big
him
lad.
for a pizza.
No.
What does that mean?
Well, he's massive. He ate about 4 pizzas. See Vince looking at his wallet, thinking, "What?"
Well, if he's paying, he can. I'm happy
Just
to
go,
go.
what you like.
go to Domino's or someplace that does some sort of meal deal, because you can get two for cheap, can't you?
Shame you can't get the buffet at Pizza Hut anymore, innit?
Yeah.
That'd have been nice for me and him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut.
Who goes to a salad bar at a pizza place? Beasts.
Won't be
Anyway.
me.
Animals. Anyway, it's 105 pages. It's a crossover by Dynamite, and it's got Witchblade, Tomb Raider, The Darkness, and Magdalena in it. None of whom I've ever read a comic about.
Get in the bin. Really?
Mate,
Really?
Darkness is great. You should
I
check
used
that
to be a
out.
big Darkness fan. I got loads of Witchblade.
Do you believe in a thing called love?
Just listen to the rhythm of my heart.
My mate went on touring with him. Side
No.
story. We'll go back to that later.
Okay, was he on the Brown as well? Was he? Or
No, he said there was a story when he was in a hotel lobby after a gig, and one of them was at the bar, like sobbing, really hating their life.
oh, right? Sounds
okay.
like I'm sure it wasn't on tour with me then at all. Or...
No.
Oh,
It would have been carnage for you.
I told you I said that at work. They said, "Oh, what hotel do you stay in when you're Cardiff?" I said, "The only one that lets me take the dead hookers out the back door." And there was like a lull in the conversation. Everyone was very shocked I had said that.
Deafening silence. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very good.
Booking.com.
You can press that tab on there to back door for dead prostitutes. Not judging me. Don't judge me.
I wouldn't judge you.
Yeah, thank you. Monster War. Go and look at that. What about you, Dan?
I wanted to bring to your attention the hidden truths you can find. Albeit through
Oh,
the-
God.
Is this a comic or something else?
No,
Yeah,
albeit
yeah,
through
are
the
you trying to-
medium of comics.
Are you trying to
It's-
sell us the Bible again?
No, not again.
Or is this your Scientology? Is this a Scientology tie-in, Dan? Is that what
no,
you do?
No.
L.
I don't
Ron
know if there's a Scientology comic. To be honest, there should be.
I told you I did this, didn't I? I changed my WhatsApp name to L.
Yeah,
Ron
Yeah.
Cupboard.
And now
Didn't
everyone
you-
thinks you're a Scientologist.
People go, "You're really a Scientologist?" I said, "It says cupboard."
It all does say in your status as well. I'm a Scientologist, which I imagine.
Yeah, and it's a picture of it's a picture of Sweep from Sweep.
Well, on Global Comics, there's a ton of comics about conspiracy theories and the like. You got Nottingham, Department of Truth, Parasocial, Evil Empire, Dear Ed, Nixon's Power. One there called Deep State, which looks pretty good, and a book called Son of Hitler. Ugh, won't be reading that for obvious reasons.
Hitler.
He doesn't
enough
read.
of them as it is.
Dan
Awful.
doesn't
Yeah.
read books about people's children.
Yeah. It's like people say, "Oh, have you seen? You want to see a picture of my baby?" No.
No.
You look like Hitler.
Yeah.
Your baby looks like Hitler.
Now there's
yeah,
a
all
comment.
that and
Your
more.
baby looks like Hitler.
Hitler, yeah.
There's got to be a manga called that. There's got to be.
It would not surprise me.
Me neither.
Yes.
It's a baby with a drawn-on moustache. Is it this life where they go to a house and our baby looks like Hitler, and he goes, "Is it? Oh yeah, we draw the moustache on with a marker pen every day." He says so. It doesn't really look like Hitler, but it does look at the hair, doesn't it?
Yeah, you brush the hair and put the little thing on.
Jesus Christ.
Global
Oh.
Comics advert there.
Global
Yeah,
Comics,
Wow.
I love that one.
Read Global Comics.
yeah. But I mean, apart from
Think of the fans of Hitler that are going to zoom in on that advert.
Yeah.
what about the
Do you think there's a
Scientologists?
Market,
In
untapped.
the Venn
It's like
diagram, do you
Scientologists.
Scientologists, fans of Hitler, and
I
comic
don't
fans
want fans of
cross
Hitler
over.
listening to this show.
Think of the numbers, Vince.
No, fans of son of Hitler, not fans of Hitler
Yeah.
himself.
We might find a fan of Hitler will come on this and they'll think, "Oh, I love Hitler. I love fucking killing people during warfare. I love invading Poland." And then
And then
they'll
they hear
listen to
that's
us and they'll
rubbish in it.
think, "I'm going to ignore Poland for a while. I'm just going to read some Avengers comics." And you think we've done a good deed there, Vince. We've turned them from the ways of invading Poland.
How have we got them onto
Possibly
Avengers
France
comics?
later.
How have we got them onto Avengers comics? Normally we're ranting about
Oh, they're
them.
not on the Global Comics app. They should be Dynamite Comics.
No,
Yeah.
Boom Comics, Image.
you can find great comics on the Global Comics app, and not only can you read all of the great independent titles on there, you can set reading status filters, notifications, of which Dan has far too many, because you can follow creators, and the books that you're reading. And if you want to read everything like Dan, you'll get enough notifications to keep you busy all day, because they're
That's
on
'cause
top.
his phone keeps buzzing. They keep saying, "Oh, you've got lots of friends." Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? Boom's just uploaded a new title. Yeah, that's what we call them. Yeah.
Yeah, why'd you call your friend Boom?
That's none of your business.
Who's this lady called Dynamite?
5 new
Why is
titles
it-
added to your reading list.
Who's this
Yeah.
girl called Mad Cave? Anyway,
Oh, Dark Horse. Yeah. They haven't got Dark Horse yet.
No.
Waiting for that one.
yeah. If you happen to be a
Mad Cave.
creator yourself, you
Never
can,
stick your cock in a mad cave.
dude. I'm trying to get through this,
Well, let's do it.
and I'm sorry, Global
do
Comics.
it.
This is.
Yeah.
If you are a creator yourself, you can publish your digital comics free. They offer loads of great tools for indie creators, publishing, marketing, and more. And there's loads of stuff on offer there. So if you go to Global Comics, that's comics with an X, you can download the app on the Apple App Store or Google Play. Start reading, following, and publishing digital comics like never before. And thank you, Global Comics, for putting up with this.
Yeah,
Brilliant
cheers.
advert. Brilliant.
This is
advert.
just.
I know 2 people that signed up to the service last week based on our advert. That's a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, the value for money is fucking crazy.
Great.
It is. I know. I gave that thing that came out. You could give people a week's free trial or whatever it was. So I gave someone the password for that, and they signed up at the end of the week.
Yeah.
They enjoyed it so much. Yeah.
It's a
Never
great
not
service.
saying not to read on there. There's
Mm.
loads of stuff.
Yeah. And just, if there's any point, it's like, I can't find something to read. All of a sudden, you'll find something that's like a 300-page volume of a book you've wanted to read for ages. There's always something. So thank you for them for sponsoring the show, as always.
Yeah.
And this week, yes, some awesome comics talk. And, some of our lovely listeners got in touch with a few questions and topics. And judging by the way that the show's already gone, fuck knows how this is going to go for the next hour. But we're going to kick off with a question from Troy. Hello,
Hi, Troy.
Troy. Thank you for
Hi,
listening
Troy.
to the show. He says, what makes for good lettering and why?
This is going to be subjective.
It's
but
and it's a broad kind of question, isn't it? But
I think objectively, easy to read without knowing you're reading it, and doesn't cover up artwork.
competent
But,
is basically you got to be like. There's stuff where I've read it's like this is too small for what it is. It's too small.
So you need to be able to read it without knowing you're reading it. It's the way I sense it, because we read automatically, don't we? When we turn the page, we're not aware of each letter or word. And I think the fact that it doesn't cover up important artwork, it's essentially going to cover up artwork. It's the nature of the beast, but it doesn't cover up important or well-drawn artwork.
Yeah,
it's kind of getting into weeds a bit, but like you get the point sizes for fonts, and 6 is usually the minimum, isn't it, of like what they recommend to print at, because below that you're going to struggle to read it. So 6 point is the minimum usually. That said, sometimes some font families and fonts, you put them at 6 and they'll display slightly smaller.
Yeah,
and that could be down to the bad design or bad.
Just the nature of some fonts, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like eyeball that stuff, and even if you think, well, a 6 point, but it doesn't display as big, so you struggle to read it. And when it's like guys like us, I wear glasses to read and do computer work, and I kind of like, fucking, I can't read that. And obviously, digital you can zoom in, but it's kind of immersion breaking.
You don't want lettering's. It's like the baseline. Do you know what I mean? It's one of the strongest things, but you should never really be aware of it a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you know what I mean? It's the rhythm of the book, and some of the greatest books, we go back and we talk about how great the lettering was, but when we were reading that book first time round, it's not usually super flashy, is it? Some of the best lettering is just does
sometimes
its job.
No, it shouldn't be flashy. I think the problem is when people do over stylized lettering, sometimes in sci-fi and horror books especially, it takes you massively out of the story.
Yeah.
You've got to be really careful. Like, I've done lettering jobs, and I was like, how far do I go with this?
Yeah.
Like, or am I not going too far enough? And it's just a bit of a whimper.
There's moments when lettering becomes part of the art, and as we've spoken about sort of recently, especially with like some of the EC or the Creepy of the Eries or whatever, where you've got these hand drawn titles and things like that.
Yeah,
and
they're great.
That's beautiful, but I find I go back to marvel at that. Do you know what I mean? The first time round, it's just, if it's stopping you from reading.
I mean, I put a line between what is lettering, which to me is what appears in balloons and panels, with sound effects.
Sound effects.
SFX.
Okay.
I completely take them
You
apart.
separate them, do you? I don't.
Yeah. Because I will distinguish in a script what's an SFX and what's a lettering. And I think sometimes I give more latitude to something that is a special effects of like maybe a boom as a massive cannon goes off, to being much more artistically, perhaps is the best word, I don't know, but the more sort of interpretively rendered on the page. So it could actually take the form of the smoke coming out of the cannon or something like that. And I don't mind that because it's not intrinsic to what is being said or described in a panel.
Yeah.
I kind of think there's a difference.
3 levels. I mean, I know. I agree with what you're saying in the sort of that there's 3 levels of lettering within a comic page for me. There's the dialogue, the thought bubble, the important information that we're getting on the page. You have the sound effects, and then there's, if it needs it, like the title cards, everything, all of these. Yeah. They're 3 sort of different things. I mean, the words on the page, the story itself, for the most part. I mean, we've talked about books that there are no sound effects. You know.
I think when you also there is I don't mind it. Does it take him out of the story when I see Eisen's the spirit and he's walking across the top of a building and the building formulates the title of the story. The spirit. Yeah. The night the spirit meets hell or something. Whatever it's going to be. I don't mind that so much because it's an opening panel and I kind of give that latitude. But if it's a conversation that you should be almost psychically reading as in the voices of the people, having it too complicated sometimes takes me out of the story, which is the last thing you should want people to do.
Yeah. The density of lettering sometimes can be a real stumbling block for me.
Too much on a page. Yeah.
Certainly, when especially...
But that's not the letterer's fault.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's probably a letterer's nightmare sometimes. Certainly on an issue 1, if I'm picking up an issue 1 and there's just nothing but words on the page everywhere, will I be likely to read? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I think
I've gone back to when I've done lettering jobs. I've gone back to the writer saying I'm struggling here. Yeah. Is there any way you can chop this down?
Yeah.
And because you're kind of your back's up against the wall if you didn't do the art. You can't fuck around with it.
It's a massive art form, lettering.
We're pre-programmed to read stuff that is in a certain way on a page, and I think one of the things I've seen recently is some letterers who don't really understand the pre-programmed nature of the style of having a white balloon. I've seen those transparent balloons used quite a few times. I don't think they work.
Fair enough.
I would, because all of our eyes are so used to just bang, 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 reading that thing. To seeing something is transparent slightly, I don't like it. Doesn't work for me.
That's fair.
Maybe for a new reader, it might be easier.
I think it's contextual as well, isn't it? Depending on what, it's case by case basis. Sometimes.
Well, it's the way we're getting used to the French stuff as well, which sometimes just has a line to it rather than actual balloon and things like. Yeah. Or they use square balloons, and stuff like that in bande dessinée, and obviously manga's different again.
Yeah,
when you think the manga is written in a column downwards in the original. But then they're trying to recreate it by fitting it in.
Yeah.
You get like rectangles and stuff, and it's like, man, then you got to try and...
Now, I see, and I read some sort of usually web comics and things like that, these Western creators, clearly they're manga readers, they're manga creators, they're totally influenced by that. So their comics are the progeny of whatever their influences are. And their speech bubbles usually, I can tell, they've even got that same... when it's like a massive word balloon, but there's not too many words in.
Yeah, it's floating in it.
Yeah. That's very much sort of a manga-based thing, isn't it? And there's more and more.
I think also that comes from the translation. So sometimes the calligraphy of a Japanese word shrinks down to, and they've got no art to fill it. So the balloon has to be larger on the page and stuff like that.
But
I get that.
The Western artists who kind of influenced by manga are using that as a stylistic choice to have these big word balloons that would have had these big captions in, but obviously they don't. So it's the Western. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of why is the decision that you've used a big balloon to do so few words, but it's a limitation of the manga translation. But you're not held by that, but you still do it anyway. I don't have a problem with it, but it's kind of
it just strikes. It's something as I'm reading it almost interrupts me because I realise like when we did Barefoot Gen over at NIA, I bought you could buy the Japanese version of a lot of books at Foyles in London. They've got a Japanese section, so I went and got the Japanese version of it, and it's really interesting because I held pages compared to them, and the columns of the Japanese words were filling the page. They were almost part of the art. Well, what we're trying to do when we Westernize a page is we try and make it into its own separate, lumped on the page, placed on the page white panel. Interesting, really interesting. That's because they're used to reading it that way. That's just the nature of it,
I can understand how some artists can be a bit fucked off with the old idea of flipping the artwork because of the way Westerners read it. But I guess again that's subjective. I mean, some people wouldn't care, and others would be like, "You're not doing that. That's not happening."
I think for sadly, this is obviously just my theory. There's a lot of young creators who are just starting out and stuff, and certainly brought up on that sort of way. They don't really have the education with lettering, and it's not. That's not to say that if you only read manga, that's bad. That's not the case at all. You can read. I think lettering from all over. It's like travel broadens the mind. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? Read different things. You get something different from so many people, and it's all down to personal taste. I'll see some lettering and I immediately just think, oh, that's a nice font. And I think certainly with many fonts when it comes to comics, even the ones that are digital in a lot of way, they're all designed to look like someone hand wrote it a lot of the time, isn't it? Even Comic Sans, greatest font of all time. I'm joking. I hate it. But
it's weird, isn't it? Different things have different. I write a lot of academic papers, and it has to be New Times Roman 12, or loads of places won't accept it and stuff like that. It's just different places have different traditions.
I guess that stops everyone changing the fucking around with the sizes and stuff. And it's just you don't want to. You're not supposed to be spending time on that. You just want to get the salient point down. But I knowing the kind of the rules of making a comic and reading one, when I come up against an error, it's like where two characters are talking and they on the next panel the artists flip them so the character on the right is speaking first and then the character on the left is next, but the letter has done the balloons not over crossing. It's like, oh man, it's
a hard slog, isn't it? I'm talking about a manga book later actually that I read, and I hadn't read in an Eastern format for a long time, for a couple of months at least, and it just take you a while to get your eye back in sometimes.
I'd prefer read it right to left if that's the way it was originally presented.
I don't mind now. Tell me
as much as I can do. Okay.
So I think that as long as you can read it, as long as you can understand the story, I think, and a lot of, I mean, we obviously we will champion letterers and lettering.
Instinctual. There's almost an instinctual way of doing it, isn't there? It's got to be done.
One of the subsets of comic creation that writers often say, I'll give lettering a go. And it's not just you'll do a bit of lettering. There's a lot to it, hell of a lot to it. Because if you're doing small press comics and you're trying to get as much work done without having to pay people, or that's one of the things that will save money by doing it.
I think, I truly massive shout out and respect to all of those indie creators who are hand lettering their own stuff anyway. Because that's just how I can't imagine doing that. And we know a lot of friends of the show and just
Prolix's hand lettering is
Prolix is next level.
It's Tothian.
But I think
all the stuff in Cockney Kung Fu.
He was great, wasn't he?
Brilliant.
Yeah. But I think we're going to do a show very soon about like sole creators, you know, sort of one person band, as it were, sort of thing. And I think if you are, and lettering's not your forte, don't just pick a font. Don't just go, oh, that just looks like. You know, you can take some time to get what's right for your story, but at the end of the day, it's always just got to be readable. You know, you got, if anyone, and I'm sure every single one of us on this pod and people listening now, if you've looked at a book and gone, oh, I don't like the way that's lettered, the moment you notice it,
it takes you massively out of it. It's hard to get back into it. Yeah.
It used to be
I remember thinking that with Watchmen. I remember when I first read issue 1 of Watchmen, thinking this is different lettering.
Okay.
But I got my eye in quickly on it because it's Gibbon's own lettering, isn't it?
That's also,
you can now buy it as a font, can't you?
That's something also changing the language of the storytelling medium, isn't it? Rather than just being, because of the nature of that project, the lettering was a certain way for a certain reason. Everything had a reason.
Well, you look at EC. EC is so distinctive because it's got its own lettering machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
Remember
I bought one, didn't I? Do you remember the Leroy? Yeah.
Yeah.
We first started, a lot of people were getting their handwritten fonts made into digital fonts.
Yeah.
That's not so much done anymore.
No. So the last time we saw it was in Monster, wasn't it? Barry Windsor Smith.
Yeah. God, yeah. It's kind of one of those things that just people will kind of, this is a good thing to do, and then they just kind of will just use the ones that have already been done.
Did JWC make her own font? I believe she did, didn't she?
Oh, okay.
She might have
More
done.
likely she's a clever person, isn't she? Yeah.
I did mine. It looked like kind of a child with a brain injury was trying to write.
Oh, God.
It was just awful. Just so
you complimented me on my handwriting once.
No, be like when you're trying to make the font, you have to do all the letters on their own. So when I got it back, it was like, oh my God. So sometimes I've used it on like some illustration stuff. When I want like a messy child's handwriting, I've used my handwriting font because it looks like someone who doesn't really know how to write has written it.
A little behind the scenes story. So when we did the thing, do you remember when the Penguin came to an end and we all did some artwork for Al, and we were posting it up, and I posted mine up to you two guys. No, I'm no artist. And what will they think? What will they think? And it was that bit it's like that bit in 30 Rock where she goes to see her friends play and she says she likes the programs. Because Dan said, I like your handwriting. I went, thanks, mate.
I like people's handwriting. If people have got nice handwriting, I really admire it. Mine's not very good.
Totally. I tell you, when it comes to like fonts in general, though, a bit of font talk for everyone out there, and creating your own like font. Just bear this. The thing I can't stand, and it was highlighted to me this week because a guy in my work, he retired this week, so they put on a retirement party, and they had like this small bit of bunting that said "Happy Retirement," you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a Comic Sans like font, which immediately got my eye twitching. But
we're designers here.
It was a capital I, right? And I hate it when the capital I's have a really strong handlebar at the top and the bottom that look like an H that's been like tipped over.
Yeah.
Just don't do it, people. It's you talk for a moment because I can't handle this.
Was it like Happy Retirement and the I in the retirement had the bars on it, but not it wasn't lowercase. Okay.
Yeah.
The choice.
Fucking don't do it.
I get pulled up all the time at work about my typography.
Why?
Because I get come over and say, "Can you just have a look at this?" And it's like you've tracked that back to like
what you post-it notes. Don't touch my fucking sandwich.
No, like I get called up and say, "This is done really well," but you track that back to like minus 0.5.
Wow.
And it's like, because I need to get it on one line. It's like, you should let it.
God,
we're
slipping into the designer's territory.
Just let it go. Doesn't matter.
Oh
dear. But yeah, hope that answers your question. As always, we've gone off on several different tangents, but
I've got a feeling he got his money worth there.
Yeah. Speaking of money's worth, from our old pal Alan Henderson.
Yeah.
What's the strangest comics-related thing you visited while on holiday? Now,
you know where this comes from, don't you? So Al posted.
Yes.
I don't think he'll mind me saying he went to Jack Kirby's grave and sent us a picture and said, "I paid respects for everyone on the Slack." It's very kind of
But
him.
he
And,
didn't go that he was in the area, and then he's like, "Oh, this is here," and then went there, didn't he?
Oh, did he? I think.
Yeah,
I think he was in the
yeah.
area for something else generally.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went to the grave. So that was very nice. I've not seen it before or anything
Yeah.
like that. So I think maybe this is where he's come from. I've got an example of this, which I think I talked about before. Should I go with my one?
Go for it.
Yeah. Mine's when I went to TCAF with Falpy and Eddie, and we went to Eddie. Eddie's somewhat of a hipster. He said, "Oh, lads, let's go to this comic reading event," and it was an outdoor event full of TCAF type people listening to people read their comics whilst their comic page appeared on the screen behind them.
What do you mean by that, Tony?
Read them out loud.
No, not that bit, but those sort of people. Are we talking
Those people.
hipsters? Sort of
Massively annoying.
shoegazers?
Nathan Barley types.
People with badges that say "Be nice," and they're never nice. Those ones,
Just checking my badge roll to see if I've got one like
Nice.
I remember when we tried to book in about 5 minutes early at TCAF, me and Sam, we said, "Oh, our books have arrived. We just need to check if our books have arrived at the table." And she went, "No." Like this woman went, "No," and she had a badge on that says "Be nice." And I felt like saying, "It's not your badge says, is it?" But we didn't. We just left it.
That's not very Christmassy.
Yeah. So we went to this thing where people read out loud their comics, and people thought I was taking a picture of the event, and instead I was just taking a picture of my face going, and I can see Falpy in the background going, and it got a lot of laughs and applause for stuff that I'm. Do you ever think you're so out of the loop that people laugh at things and they applaud at things, and you think,
What are they doing?
why are they doing that?
Yeah.
You got that.
all the time.
Completely out of the loop, obviously, completely uncool. But it was this thing, and I think it was just somewhat cringe. I'll be honest with you. And then me and sort of Falpy insisted that we left, and we went for a curry.
Well, I think that was the best part of that, wasn't it?
It
Going
was
for a curry.
fun. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it felt like the
Did you sort of like
undercover
look over at each other when that thing was going on? You're like, oh,
very much so.
Yeah.
It was like the time I
What
went
is
to a
this?
signing with you, and we got separated while the dude did a speech, and he kept talking about weird things, and I kept looking at you, and you're looking at a book called "These Are My Boobs" or something. Do you remember?
I do remember the Snapdragon one. So that's when I called that eye that dude I'd never seen before, never seen since. And we both looked at each other and like started laughing. Because the guy said about like touching men's bodies and stuff, and we just kind of looked like two school kids.
Okay.
The teacher said so.
You're a grown man. You're a grown man.
My wife would beg to differ on there.
Oh well, keep that to yourself.
There we go.
We had Borat on last night, and I was absolutely rolling up at some of that. And,
I haven't watched the Return of Borat more than once. I might have a look at it. It's not as good, is it?
Nah. They know who he is, so it ruins the gag.
Yeah, I thought this was a question essentially for Tony, because usually when I'm on holiday, I think sometimes it's just a strange experience walking into like comic stores when you're abroad or on holiday or anything, because they vary so wildly, don't they? Because
you're like introducing yourself. Oh, I'm from the UK.
Yeah, you see one and you immediately think, oh wow, I'm far away from my home, but there's another little home here for me. And then you walk in, and then you feel, oh, this doesn't feel right. There's still that atmosphere of like you walked into like a local pub and everyone's just looking at you.
Yeah.
It's like,
I remember
okay.
I worked in The Hague for a month, and I was over there, and there's a comic shop in The Hague, and they're quite snooty in Holland about comics. They just sort of told me off about how their scene was better than the British scene every time. But I used to go in there a couple of times a week because we used to work weird hours, so I'd get the odd 4 hours over lunchtime off, and I used to go there and just hang out. And they were, to be fair, they were lovely.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, it was quite a cool little place to hang out. But I'm like you, Vince. Whenever there's wherever I am, I try and find a comic shop. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah. Sometimes there's none.
Being on the stag do in Ibiza and buying Dragon Ball Z comics in Spanish because I like the artwork.
I like having foreign comics. I can't read them, but I like to get a comic wherever I go.
There's so many things about that story that you just said, Dan, which blow my mind.
Yeah, that's just...
You were in Ibiza.
Yeah. They love Dragon Ball over there, didn't they? In
Yeah,
Spain.
yeah.
It's all
I bought the
business.
Swedish Walking Dead once in Stockholm. That's quite cool. Yeah.
Wow.
On that bombshell.
Wow. Stirring stuff. Okay, so I hope that answered it. Well, I mean, that was a light question, that one, but certainly always knew Tony was going to have an answer for that one. From Sarah Webb. What comic would you give to your best friend, and what comic would you inflict on your worst enemy, and why?
I've got answers
Now,
for
Sarah,
this.
this is a tricky question. This one.
Yeah.
I've got to see what comic we get for your best friends. I do it fucking numerous times a year to you two motherfuckers. So it's just something I think you'll enjoy. That's
Yeah.
something I've enjoyed, but I think you will as well. That's kind of how
I would give them my own comics because I have a fragile ego and they won't say anything bad about them. They'll be supportive.
Well, my go-to obviously would be the Viz annual. I always give that to people. Like,
That's a great one. I've done that as well numerous times. Yeah, I copied you.
there's
on
so
that
much in there. It's just
I think
great.
it's strange because of this show that and like Tony's just mentioned there. That is it's almost like an easy question to answer because every week we talk about things we'd recommend, and even like beyond us three on the pod, there's been books that I've recommended on the show, and I've WhatsApp or message friends and just be like, you've got to read this, and if I was made of money, I probably would have sent them loads of copies of that. It's just whatever you think you're. I mean, we all
like.
Most of the time we know what our friends like.
I mean,
Like
there's probably what 15 people in my life who I buy comics for every year,
Nice.
and I think it's always comics for me unless they just don't know what comics are at all.
Yeah.
Then I'd buy everyone comics.
Always try and get someone into comics like as a gateway drug. Of kind of like, perhaps they might start. If I get this comic for them and they like this, maybe they might start getting comics. I don't really think that's ever worked out.
Like that girl at work you had a crush on that time you got her cross, didn't you? I mean, it's like
yeah.
So
someone gets beaten to death with a horse cock. You'll love this.
They were making a TV series there. I don't know how that's going to work out. But I got my dad, because obviously all dads are into war films. I got him Sarah.
All right.
Then I thought, I don't know if he's ever read it. But
nah. Oh, that's nice, son.
Yeah, cheers. Just put that over there.
Oh, that classic Christmas present when they're like, that's lovely, and then they put it down and they go to wrap another present. You're like, well, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
But going back in, I mean, we're men, you don't do this anymore. But going back into the depths of the past, have you ever bought a girl you've been dating a comic?
Yeah.
Have you?
I got the original Crow graphic novel. She absolutely loved. No, I think she really loved the film, and I got the book, and she was like, "Oh, this is amazing." Loved it.
Okay. Yeah. I never have.
I've never done it as a pitch of sort of like, "Hey, look, it's Danny B over here. Here's a comic."
Christ, I kept it a bloody secret.
Yeah, I know.
As a pitch.
Yeah,
you pitched yourself to.
Yeah. No, but it's sort of like as an in saying, I'm pretty cool.
Pitch it to me.
I'm pretty cool. You should see the little head swivel he gave there.
Here's Whizzer and Chips, issue 56.
Oh, dear. No. Yeah, so as for books you give to your worst enemy, I wouldn't give comics to my worst enemy. Even a terrible comic they don't deserve. They don't deserve comics.
I'd give them Captain Marvel issue 1 because if they then tried to read on, they could not figure out which volume they're on. What is it? What has it been like? Fucking 40. It gets rebooted twice a year. The Captain Marvel comic.
Yeah.
So it's like a finger trap.
So it's like I'll read a bit more of this. How do I find out? It like almost send them crazy.
Captain Marvel issue 1, and they're like,
also recently terrible, but
recently. Yeah. Maybe I'd send them the same comic, like every birthday,
but with a variant cover.
I tell you what, a variant cover. That's a great. Yeah, that's quite a fun thing to do for one of your friends. I think to send them.
Do you remember it's like when X-Men 1 had a variant cover, and I bought it not realizing that was a thing, and I've read this story before.
Covers. Yeah,
so you could do that with the Dynamite comics. Got 20 different covers. Just keep buying them every year. I'm sure I've read this story too.
It's
got a different cover. Yeah.
Just slowly, over 20 years, drive them insane. Chipping away at someone's psyche very, very slowly. That's what we promote on this show. That's what we've been doing to people ever since we started.
Burrowing into their minds.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Comics are for good people. So don't send them to people you don't like. That's what I say. Well, that sounded like a broad statement, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, mind you, if you'd have sent comics to Hitler, back to Hitler again, he might not have invaded France and Poland. He might have thought, I like these comics. Perhaps I should be a good guy.
I love the fact that you think the power of this medium is such.
They could assuage.
Could it turn a megalomaniac?
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few egomaniacs in comics, but I mean, could it? Could the morals of a Spider-Man comic?
Perhaps we should send a few issues over to Putin. So
yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Sort out.
With great power comes great responsibility.
An ACP care package. Sends it over. I'll send over Viper, Crimson Dawns if he likes.
But do you know what? When he opens, maybe send it over to Trump. When he opens the old atomic football, and there's that big red button, and he looks over and he sees, Born Again.
Yeah.
I'll have a read of that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Think, no, he's come through his troubles. We can do it too. Closes the lid.
God, we're saving the world on this show.
Day at a time.
We haven't actually done anything yet, but
no, and we probably won't.
Typically like comics.
Yeah.
Just talked about it a lot.
We could grandstand about it on social media, but not actually do
just
anything.
talk about we've solved world problems.
Yeah.
Asterix.
Oh, speaking of,
please buy my new comic.
Speaking of asterisks or footnotes or tie-ins, what good time to let's chuck this one in first, chaps.
Okay.
Because we were talking, I think it was it last week or the week before, how we missed those little boxes in comics that were like, read this issue for. Because when someone sort of goes, ever since you crashed the Fantastic Mobile, and as a reader you think, did they? And
when the fuck happened?
Yeah, and the little box said Fantastic Four number, whatever.
Yeah.
And then this week, Tony spotted something.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to find it. I can't fucking find it now. Can I? Typical man. It's
on his one of the comics he read, which was also one of his cover picks from our
it was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
actually?
Instagram cover picks. This was from, is it X Factor? Is it
X Factor? It's the new series of X Factor. So it's X Factor issue 1, which is part of the whole sort of new Marvel. I've found it now. The whole new X book launch, which is hasn't been super bloody good, but so X Factor 1. Which is a story. It's like the old fucking Ecstatics, JLA, Justice League. It's like what if they've got a PR manager and they're doing all this stuff on?
Yeah,
I think it's called Click Clock.
TikTok.
What? Really?
Yeah. See, like if it was done as like a bit of a satire on modern social media and stuff, okay, I'll give it a shot. But
so ham-fisted, man. You can't combine it with a super anyway. But so in the middle of it, he's this Angel, who's the leader of the first half of this issue. Don't even get me into it. If you go to the last NIA, you'll get a full review. But he's saying they're talking about Havoc, and this manager character is called Broderick, somebody or other, who's just caricature cliche of a character. Says they're talking about Havoc, and he goes, he's doing much better now. Asterisk, and at the bottom of it says, see X-Men from the Ashes, Infinity comic on Marvel Unlimited. Now, the problem with that is that comic, as far as I know, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will, only appears on the Marvel app, which is a paid-for app, reading app. So if you're an X Factor fan and you want to make sure that we're all a bit OCD, we've all got that sort of collector mentality, and we want to fill in all the gaps and figure out what's happening in our new favourite title, X Factor, we have to buy the Marvel app to read an Infinity comic. Infinity Comics is the word for scrolling comics.
Yeah.
On the Marvel app. So we would have to go and see that. And I thought, that's a bit cheeky, isn't it?
That's not great.
I thought two things. I thought that's a bit cheeky. And Cynical Esmond thought they're pushing people to the app. Is this because they're going to get rid of monthly comics soon? So what are your thoughts? When I told you about it, I think from Vince, I can read you. And Vince said, ooh, lots of O's.
I do that a lot.
And Dan said, so is that a print comic referring to a digital comic? And I said, not just that, it's referring to a comic that's available only on the app.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
not could they not have done on the asterisk? It was blown up, it was destroyed, or something. Like some kind of the editor saying this, kind of summing up what happened, rather than pointing it towards the app. And the fact that it is doing that.
But
I can't agree with it. I can't.
But saying that, I mean, we'll get on to the second point of like maybe not doing monthly books anymore. Just what the function of this box is doing.
Yeah,
it's not really doing anything different than what the comics always did. Because we were talking briefly before we recorded, and as Tony said, like you read that in an old book, printed book, available in Spider-Man number 454, or whatever, something like that, and you think, oh, I need to read that issue. You'd go and buy that issue. So you spend money to get that issue. So the function that it's doing is the
slightly
same.
different. I would argue that it's slightly different because it's not just buying a single issue; it's asking you to sign up for an app.
True, but that's because that's more the delivery of comics in this modern age has changed. It's it's doing an old school thing in a modern way.
In a slightly different, because you could arguably say that if you go and read Spider-Man 454, the idea of sending you there is you get hooked on Spider-Man, you start adopting that as a monthly one.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not just £3.50 a month. It's in one single installment. It's £3.50 a month for the next 10 years. But what you've got is you're signing up for an app that not only allows you to read that comic and other comics, but also you're talking algorithms. You're talking it's now got your email. You're now in a loop for a reading.
That's what it is now. It's sign-ups rather than readers.
Yeah,
that's what this is. So whether
I love the Marvel app, guys.
Yeah. So it's using something that we were talking about missing for a different purpose, isn't it?
Don't know about you guys. That would have no effect on me whatsoever. If I saw that, if it said saw on the app, I'd just be like, well, I ain't going to see that then.
Who's your favourite character in the world?
Apart from me.
Or say there's a favourite character and it says find out what happened to them on the app.
So if you're a massive Havoc fan, I'm actually something of a Havoc fan. I saw him first in the Paul Neal.
It would annoy me.
Neil Adams stuff. Yeah.
But just to kind of scratch that itch, I don't know. It's a tough. I can understand where you're coming from, in as much that they put my arm up their back here trying to stealth me into signing up for the Marvel app. I can see how you got that concern. I think it's valid.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then I can't put
it... They are a business trying to sell comics.
I can't put it down to that thing of like not seeing malicious intent when it could just be someone
stupidity.
Not fucking
What's that? I can't remember such razor. I can't remember the.
Was it Occam's razor?
No, I think that's something different. Yeah.
No, it's not Hanlon's razor. Oh fuck me, there's loads of razors.
Yeah. It's just it's just an email subscription sign up kind of thing, really, isn't it? That's kind of.
And don't forget a money thing. You do have to pay as a month. What's it? £9 something. Yeah. I do think people would benefit from having the Marvel app. I do think it's a good thing to have. But I think when we get to the second part there, Vince, I think, is it, cynical me thinks, would they, I mean...
It's something that if it was massively successful, I think, I understand your worry about it, Tony. I don't think that's necessarily... I think there's probably people within the offices who want it to go that way. But unless this is a smash, something like this means that they get a huge uptake, that's not going to happen.
Certainly not in the numbers at the moment.
Yeah.
Only other thing is they would be able to track who's making that jump from that kind of initiative either. They would be able to track that, would they? Because there's no kind of...
Yeah. I think most of these subscription services, like all of them, are doing well because of word of mouth. Like Tony, I mean, you've told us many times the Marvel app's great. Do you know what I mean?
I really enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think personally they should push stuff like the ease of use, the great service they offer, as opposed to trying to lock content behind a digital wall like that.
It opens up. It would make. I mean, this is leading into a different conversation as well. it then opens up something that's very dangerous in terms of, if this app was successful and then that's the only place you got your comics, they stopped doing the monthlies and it was just on the app. I think you would see the same thing that's happened on streaming movie sites, TV sites and stuff like that. Because it's content. That's all we want. Even if it's really good to begin with, eventually it's quantity over quality, and I think the quality would just drop. I mean, we've talked about issues of comics where's the fucking background? The colourers doing all the heavy lifting on this, or what's happening with this lettering, all of this stuff. I think those issues would just get more and more, until it's just an empty vessel. A lot of these comics.
It's like I hung out with Nick Briggs one night who talked about the way that this is relevant, the way that Big Finish works, and they know every month that back then they ran a subscription model, so people got sent every CD for Doctor Who, so they know they had that money, and they could create up to that money for wages, etc. Up to that money. Now, if Marvel has that, they have an app. They know they have, for sake of something else, 100,000 readers on the app.
Yeah,
they know they've got 100,000 readers times £9 every month to play with, so they create product up to that number. However, that doesn't work when you get someone like a big writer. You might get a Moore or a Miller or someone come in and say, "I want to be paid this much for an issue." Where does that money come from when all you've got is these digital comics?
Yeah,
and all you've got is that set number of books that are reaching here.
Yeah,
it doesn't allow for the peaks and troughs of the market, which we see much more. And I mean, the current model is massively fucked, but we see that more in the current model.
Yeah,
I think you do need a combination of models.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with like the bigger companies doing these subscription services is their name and their legacy is born from not what it is, not what those services are. Do you know what I mean? They made their bones from people having the comics and having the books. If it was a new company or if it was a new thing that only did the digital stuff, then of course they build their audience like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If Marvel didn't exist before and then started this, it's a different ballgame. But you're always going to have the diehards who are always going to want the print books, going to want the reprints. They've built up a fan base who have made their comic collecting world on buying books, from the shelf, isn't it?
But I think what it'll eventually be in 10 years, it will be nearly all just digital. The odd issue, and everything will be in trade.
Yeah, and
not everything will be in trade. But yeah.
I'm nodding along here. I can honestly see singles being digital and then print, depending on the readership and the numbers that they trade.
Probably, if that's the case, then a lot of the creators who we consider to be bigger names are going to make their bones elsewhere because there won't be the money in it. So all of these people are like, oh yeah, I love these books by Grant Morrison or Jonathan Hickman or pick a name and pick the book. They probably won't be doing that there in these digital only books because
they may just go to like independent and do crowdfunding, do their own stuff.
Exactly. That's where a lot of these creators are going to do that. So there won't be so many people. It's big names working on legacy characters, isn't it?
They won't be working on Marvel and DC because Marvel and DC are looking to go to the apps. I think.
No.
Yeah.
We've had spoken to creators that obviously someone's been whispering in there about doing crowdfunding, and
sometimes successfully, a lot of the times not.
Yeah.
A lot of the times somebody will get in the ear of, let's choose a random name, Tim Truman, and they all think you can make a load of money on, and then 6 years later we're still all waiting for the book.
So you can make a load of money, but you've got to deliver the product.
You have made a load of money.
Yeah,
but
you've got to deliver the product.
You still got to put that book out.
Yeah.
If I can chase my ass when you give these people the money and then you're still sitting there waiting for the fucking book to.
But also the crowdfunding market as well. A lot of that, the big numbers, are coming around because people get once in a lifetime printed versions of these comics. They're not always. You're not having $1 million campaign based on your just a digital PDF. You're not. People are buying original artwork and having hardcover, variants and all that. No matter what it is. We get
people like the Eric Julys who kind of seem to have kind of bucking the trend in that regard and making their own original characters and seem to be doing really well as far as I can tell.
I don't know how long that trend will run for.
Same. I don't know about the longevity in that.
But he's
I
still
think it's
making the
kind of
printed books,
flash
though,
in
isn't
the
he?
pan.
He's still...
Yeah, he's still doing printed books and all that stuff.
So I don't know what they're like because we don't really see them here, do we?
No. I did inquire into getting one, and it was just absolutely stupid money. So
Was it?
I'm
Yeah.
not paying that
Yeah.
just for a fucking comic. Like 20, 30 quid for a fucking 24-page comic of a plus shipping. I was like,
Yeah.
nah.
Who's
Each of their own.
got the money?
There was a lot of the kind of the original creators. I hate using that fucking CG word, but like who started bringing out books and they're years and years late, haven't delivered.
Yeah.
And
I asked for my money back on one of them. Yeah, I did it. To be fair, it was before we all sort of realised who people were, and I backed it then just because it was just an indie book, and then it just took so long. I said, "Nah, fuck it, send me the money back."
Because I was interested in getting that Rambo book.
Yeah,
the first was it the origin story of Rambo, and it's like I don't think that's gone to press yet, and that's been kicking around for fucking years.
That's pre-COVID, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just like it was going through the print process now, or the print pre-press process. I was like, mate, that's like a half hour job to check the files are okay to go to the printer. Why is it taking months to do this?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So yeah, clearly these sort of these boxes are meant to point people in the direction of like signing up for an app, but I don't think something like that's successful. I think it's better just point them to an actual issue that exists. Do you know what I mean? But that's an ideal world. If we look at it,
comics is such a weird one, isn't it?
The cold hard business world. There's absolutely no money in those little boxes. Do you know what I mean? It would be something for fans. That's all that would be.
It goes to like we talked about last week with Eamon. You know, I've got all these boxes I can see in another room there, and I'm like, that as a format is disappearing.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And what are people going to think? You know, when they prise open my garage and there's cobwebs and all these boxes in there in 100 years' time. Yeah,
I mentioned last week when I've bought back issues of people, and they're like 30 years old, and they turn up, and it was like they were printed yesterday. They've been like so well looked after. I'm just like, this is amazing. How do you keep a comic this well? It's
still infinite. Like the thing is about Golden Age comics, they're still so readable as well.
Because I agree with you, Dan. Like I can't fathom it sometimes because, like when we've been at Comic Marks, and I'll buy an old UK Weekly, and I'm like, wow, this obviously looks old, looks vintage. The beautiful aging process of the print, the newsprint and stuff like that, which is part of its charm, but kind of immaculate in its own way.
Yeah, it's immaculate.
And I can't fathom that because I read those comics to fucking death until the staples.
Yeah,
when the staples fine, but you got that weird curving tear around the edge. That happened to all of my books, and I read them to fucking death until eventually, the covers come off.
Yeah,
so it's a beautiful thing to see, and God bless all you people who have treasured
when
these
I buy
books.
second-hand pornography on eBay.
Yeah,
very, very.
Can you
well
slab
read.
those?
I think people have tried.
It's one of the things in our book because we do deal with a lot with the auction industry. There occasionally be some like Rudy Nudies come up from like the 70s,
which you normally send to us.
Yeah, and we always get that sent to us
so we can bid early.
I did hear a story of David Dickinson, like a big box of stuff come up, like of vintage pornography, and he put a couple of cheeky bids in for it. Don't think he won it, but there you go.
Oh, that's a shame.
I always look at those. My missus likes those sort of lunchtime things where people run around buying stuff and going to auctions and stuff. And I see half the people on them, and I think, how are they not part of Operation U-Tree?
Yes.
Oh dear. Anyway, last little topic we've got, which I think is going to go off in several different directions as well. I positive.
Got two topics.
Have we got?
Yeah, the one I sent you this week.
Oh yeah. Do you want? Shall I do this one?
Do yours first.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We may go long tonight. I said to the chaps, and of course these topics keep the conversation going as always, wherever you hear it, even if you're just talking to yourself on the train. But I said, with so many reboots, reskins, new takes on classics, etc., are modern comics devoid of new legacy characters? The Bonds, the Turtles, the Vampirellas, the Dreads, etc., etc. Will we ever see them again? And if any are created now, how do we know if a character is something like that? Now, what made me think about this, I was just thinking, well, actually, I was thinking about Garth Ennis books. I just had one of those thoughts, and I just thought, oh, well, he's covered James Bond. He's done a James Bond book, hasn't he? Did he?
I'd class James Bond as differently because it's a novel series first, and then a movie series.
But that then led me on to. But James Bond is also, it has a legacy which has then bled into comics, much like a lot of the pulp characters have had novel series, and then the Conans, etc. But then there's the comics legacy ones like a Judge Dredd, like essentially all of the classic ones from the big two. One of the reasons I didn't name them, because that's fairly obvious. They were created of another time, and now other people are taking on these characters and creating story for them. Because it feels at the moment new characters they're not taking hold as much.
I would agree and disagree. I would agree that that's probably the case at Marvel and DC, and I think we can have a conversation in a minute about when was the last legacy character created. But I think there are legacy characters in manga.
Yeah.
I think there are long-running comics with lots of spin-offs that are happening in manga.
Okay.
And I think,
but with that, I mean, correct, and please correct me because I don't have, the experience with it. Are a lot of these characters, someone created them and other people are handling them now? Or is it normally
some of them
the sole creator? Because when we started this topic, and certainly, Tony, you brought up the Mark Miller, some of the characters he's created and all of these kind of things. And it felt like, to me, these legacy characters are the ones that go beyond the people who created them initially. Eastman and Laird aren't doing Turtles anymore.
Yeah.
But we will constantly get more Turtles
they
stuff.
Come back and do it occasionally.
Occasionally, they'll come back to it. But the legacy is like people can walk into that sort of those characters, and you don't so much have it with Yojimbo so much as many people. Yosagi, as many people taken him on. He's guested him, but normally it's Stan.
Not with him, I'd say.
No.
If you discount the Turtle stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think with Millerverse it's a little yes and a little no. So most of the stuff is written by him, although he does get a changing number of artists in, which push it. But there are some that are written by other people now. So there was the Hit Girl series were written by other people. Some of the Kick-Ass was written by other people, and what's the movies he did, the three movies, Kingsman. So they've had some spin-off tales that have been written and drawn by other people. So there is an element a little bit in his world with that, I think. Now it depends whether you say successful in a critical or a financial way as well, because I know the one you mentioned was Watchmen. Now Watchmen critically has not been successful in spin-offs, but financially, as I understand it, Doomsday Clock was and remains to be financially good for DC.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of a something. Jeff Johns, I'm right in saying that.
But that's also an interesting take on the what it is, the trademark. I don't want to say IP, but you know what I mean. Is selling the books. It's not so much the like Daredevil was around for years. Frank Miller does Born Again. That's like holy shit. You know what I mean? That's a tentpole moment.
Daredevil is a history of reboots that have been successful. Critically and financially.
Yeah, and I think a character like Daredevil is a good example of there's so many different sort of shifts or books that people can pick out. Whereas the Watchmen one was a little more. You obviously had the classic that everyone, the Guardian, just constantly points to. But like you say, Doomsday Clock. As good as it is, it still feels more like they're doing because it's an obvious moneymaker.
Don't forget we had Before Watchmen as well. So there has been other examples of it. But then again, Watchmen's a weird one because Watchmen is a reworking of other heroes.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway,
yeah. So maybe that's a poor sort of choice.
Yeah.
Really, but
I mean, I the other one I came. What else did I come up with? I think Grendel but that goes back to the 80s.
Yeah.
Hilda. Hilda's one that has been, so Grendel's been done by other people. Hilda is now being done by other people. And if you want to talk about other mediums, it's in cartoons and it's in novels as well. So
but for
that's
me,
a little bit.
Yeah, but for me, I always like bring it back to the comics. I think how strong is a legacy of a character when the creator's not there. When and that's why it's so hard to judge. There's lots of comics now where I think they're really strong characters and really strong stories, but when the creator's moved on and done other things, or maybe something's happened, whatever.
Yeah.
In 20, 30 years, are people still going to be making new stories?
It's a weird time you ask this, mate, because we are facing like a reboot tsunami at the moment.
Yeah.
So especially stuff that's got an animation link to it. So we've had the Battle of the Planets. We've had what's the Thundercats one?
Yeah.
There's a lot. We've had we've just had the Defenders of the whatever that one is.
Yeah.
The
Space Ghost.
We're going
Space
through that.
Ghost.
The 80s cartoon renaissance has hit comics in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Transformers. Yeah.
And things like
Johnny
Dick Tracy.
Quest.
Dick Tracy.
Yeah. So I think we're going through a weird time with that, where you are having other people. I haven't read the new Johnny Quest comic, but I heard it talked about this week or last week on 11 O'Clock Comics, and it did not get a very good review.
Yeah.
I personally didn't. I thought Thundercats was terrible.
Yeah.
As a comic, even though it's like a massive seller. So we've got that combination of
But that's I mean, obviously, a lot of these things, they didn't originate in comics so much always, but they've still got that legacy that comics are probably now keeping going. But, once again, all of these books that are getting a lot of, eyes on them are things that existed in the 80s, the 70s or whatever, that people are having new takes on that and doing new versions of.
Yeah. I mean, what is the
modern
newest,
comics
what's the newest one?
Yeah. What is there in modern comics or modern comics characters? Let's step away from the big two necessarily. What are the ones?
I think
that
even with the big two, it's hard to spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you might say Miss Marvel, but Miss Marvel's a continuation of character.
I mean, for me, and it's weird because the character itself is already a take on the character. Miles Morales is one of the.
It's part of the Spider Universe.
Yeah.
Clearly, yeah.
It's
like having a new Captain America, which we've had. It's the same. Yeah. What is it? What is a standalone character that has appeared out of the big two or anywhere that has been successful and other people have taken it on? That's the bit I can't, because we could say Saga, but they haven't done that. We could say any of the Kirkman stuff, but it's generally not been done by other people. I tell you what, Walking Dead. I'll tell you why. We had the big series of Walking Dead. We had Kirkman and Moore, and then Adlard. But now it's the spin-off series being done by people that he's not writing it. Other people are writing and drawing it. So we've had the Tilly Walden books, which have been financially quite successful.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of spin-off annuals as well.
But the thing that's slightly different for me for that is that's a legacy world. That's a legacy story. You know what I mean? But where is the front and center main character? Do you know what I mean? Who's the person that is on the cover of the book? That Dynamite would print 20 versions of this character standing there. Where is the modern? Because there's characters that obviously have a cult following and they've got great stories. I mean, I like Something's Killing the Children, and I'm enjoying that story and like the world that's being built and the character, and I can see potentials that it could have going forward. But at the same time, it's like, well, no, because I think they're going to tell that story and stop it. And when it ends with the creator, it will probably end with the creator, because we are also in a creator-owned world as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're very much in that. This is my comic. This is my character. I'm going to keep hold of it. Until
that reason
I would just go to the BPRD universe then, the Hellboy BPRD, because
that's one of the closest ones. Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, he's created the characters within the Hellboy universe.
Yeah, and
then those characters have been taken out of those comics into their own series by other people.
Yeah. And
although
Hellboy,
he often does,
has how many times has Hellboy himself? Because BPRD was almost like it was the perfect.
Mignola writes a lot though. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing is so that's with the creator-owned world we live in. The creator is so intrinsically linked to these characters that the legacy will end with the creator a lot of the time. possibly. I think Hellboy's an interesting one because there will be 50 years from now, what is Hellboy doing? Who's doing Hellboy? Who's got, and that could be, and we don't want to, obviously, I'm not, don't dwell on, I'm just thinking 75 years from now, that kind of thing. Any of our characters or anything like that, what is the legacy that, because no one wants to think as well. When you're creating these things, you don't want to think, I'm creating something for someone else to take over and do their own version of one day. And what
about Valiant? Valiant's another example. So we do have newish characters, certainly created in the last sort of 15, 20 years in the reboot of Valiant, who are now being written by other people.
Is this the Faith and things like that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Faith goes back, but there's a few characters. Who's the fourth immortal, the sister? There's a few characters that don't go all the way back to the 90s.
Yeah.
Who are newish.
But are they written as part of, were they written as part of an ongoing? It's almost like they spin off, doesn't it?
But then again, they're in the same universe. But yeah,
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Go on, Dan.
With the X-Men is like whenever they do they're going for the X-Men reboots now, and they always throw in a couple of new mutants with the older team members to sort of say, right, is Joe Bollocks, and he can do this. This is his special move.
Wow, but Joe Bollocks, he was good actually. He reminded me of Buster Gonad from Viz.
That's his power. He keeps falling over onto things with his bollocks. The
creator that does these characters always wants to be like, I'm the one who created that character. But there's fucking hundreds of mutants you could have picked from that don't really have any kind of real fleshing out, and a lot of stories about them. You could have grabbed and said, no, I'm going to put them in this book and bring them up. But occasionally you would get them, they drop in and they'd be like, oh, that's another one gone.
They're usually an online article for about a month, and then the character isn't strong enough to keep.
Some of the Grant Morrison ones that they have stuck around. Like, what's that one with the kind of the one with the bones inside them? It's like pink jelly. He's still knocking around. So there's a couple of them, but generally this always I want one of my characters to be in there, and it feels a bit like self-insert at times. But
massively. So many of these created though, like especially part of the big two, like those supporting ones down, those supporting ones that created it. It's like Avengers Academy. I remember when that first came out, big dealings, a bunch of new kids sort of characters, even if they were related in some way, but it was a bunch of new, like Hazmat and all of that. And 10 years later, they're usually just supporting characters in something that they're hardly there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So what is their legacy? Do you know what I mean? They can't support their own books. If a writer doesn't really care about them, then they're as good as dead if they're in a story.
With the nature of the beast with Marvel and DC won't. They're incapable because they're a corporation of coming up with a new character.
Yeah.
Presumably they'll receive a pitch.
Or people don't want to come up with a new character.
Exactly. The only way they get a new character is if a creator pitched it, and now they're reticent to do so because they know they won't get the money for doing it ultimately because it's for a work for hire gig.
Who's America? What about America Chavez? Standalone character.
Yeah, she's
had a couple of series, not brilliantly. Didn't do super well in the movie.
Yeah.
Possible. Young Avengers. There's a couple of characters in the Young Avengers who've moved on.
Yeah. Even then, could you pick like any of those ones, like Ironheart or anything, and say,
Ironheart's just Iron Man though. It's a bit like that's what I'm trying to think of is
who's new, who is something fresh that is like, and it usually comes around that like some of these characters are essentially dead narratively for 10 years until some writer comes along and comes
up with an idea.
No one's talking about
Tom King's
them.
making a career of it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think Hickman's done it a bit as well, hasn't he? Hickman sometimes takes characters from
who are we going to deconstruct now?
New Warriors type stuff. But we've had a couple of that popped out of the Vertigo universe. I know he was never originally in the Vertigo universe, but Hellblazer.
Yeah.
He's become that. There's a couple of Death has appeared elsewhere.
Yeah.
Did that fucking New Warriors comic ever get published? The one everyone went
mental over? I don't think it did. I saw someone had a copy online, didn't they? I was
there's one character
through on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Their powers from magic internet gas.
Internet gas, yeah.
I mean, I think
I often get a boner from looking at the internet. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
If you smell the keyboard, like you get suggestible.
Don't smell my keyboard. Fucking hell.
No. Remember that in Brass Eye?
Just smells like
Richard Blackwood saying, "Yeah, if you smell the keyboard, you can actually get more suggestible." So, oh God,
God. But I think
that's nonsense.
With independent and with independent comics and creator-owned comics, which is quite rightly creator-owned. You know, it's yours. You'll reap the benefits of having these characters and stuff like that. It is. You are so linked to that title. Take Ghost Machine, which we are absolutely loving what Ghost Machine are doing. But Ghost Machine are all about these are our books. They're all tying in the whatever it is, and we're loving it because these people, it's their ship and they're sailing it the way we want to sail it. But is there a world 10 years later when these characters still exist, and these creators are sitting back and watching other people?
I think sometimes creators can be a bit funny about the people writing the books.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I would be.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It's totally understandable. But because of that, are legacies in comics maybe not so strong anymore? Would you say modern comics? Because I mean, if you boiled it down, you could quite easily say we'll never see another Judge Dredd. But most of these things,
legacies are based on sales, and sales aren't supporting the new characters. That's basically it.
Sadly,
they occasionally try it, and then it doesn't get supported.
Yeah.
You know, was it the Union? Do you remember? You probably don't even remember this. The Union that came out a few. It was like a new team in England.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Written by the bloke who wrote Jack Star, Paul Grist.
Yeah.
And it just went nowhere. People forgot it. It disappeared.
Yeah.
Readable. You know, would have easily been one of the better Marvel UK monthly titles. But no, just disappeared.
And stuff like that needs a bit of time to kind of find its feet and flourish.
Yeah.
The books that we revere now, like, you know, these cult classics, there's no space to be a cult classic now in the mainstream, especially.
Sometimes it seems like Marvel especially want to push a title and then it doesn't get beyond the like 6, and then they reboot it again to an issue 1, but pretty much with the same creative team and very little change.
I think they've even started being quite open about that. Doesn't Brevoort answer that question in his mailer?
That's
I read
insane.
the new mailer, and he says no. He says you just get the bump. You get the press of a new first issue. You get the new sales on a new first issue. You know,
but surely they realise that is so short-sighted. You're like they're
living hand to mouth, man. That's the problem with them. I think they just live in this short view financial thing. Where probably there's somebody looking over their head saying,
they would check out saying, I ain't doing this anymore, it's rubbish.
Well, it's like what I said about Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was rebooted twice a year. Savage She-Hulk rebooted, and then 2 months later came back with the same creative team. Same storyline, same characters, same nonsense. And nobody seems to be there go, well, there's a reason this isn't working, and it's for this reason.
Yeah. So, possibly then...
Fault of the editors, though, Matt. I think, Vince, everything you're saying there comes back to the poor editorship.
Yeah.
They're not creating these legacies.
So we're not going to see it within the bigger publishing for many of these reasons. So with that in mind, it seems to me that you lived your life like a candle in... No. The legacies, that I've used the word so many times it's lost all meaning, are now...
legacies.
They are under the stewardship of the people who created the characters. If you have your character and you do it for decades, like Usagi Yojimbo is a legacy, isn't it? That is, you're going to look back on that. A Hellboy is a legacy. So because it was done for so long, it is. They are titans of this world, aren't they? Like, you know, all of these. So that's how I think independent the legacies in comics will stand within the independent scene because it's so creator owned. And hopefully the creators will care so much that they will want to hold on to these things and keep creating these things for decades. Like the guys that were doing the Grendels, you know, doing the Usagis, doing all of these books, you know, because the only way to make a legacy is to make it long lasting. Like I said, Tony, you're not going to get it in the big two because it's all based around sales. In independent and small press, the comics we make is largely down to how much we love making them.
We've spun off Atomic Hercules.
You've got.
I mean, the way that was such what a way to word it.
We got the Jeremy single issue, Jeremy comic.
Yeah,
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 that counts.
yeah,
There'll
yeah,
be a Fred one. I guess Fred does star in a lot of the comic on his own, doesn't he?
yeah.
Oh, Fred the Nonce.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we
Yeah.
got like Jeremy, which I don't know if you got the Ashcam we did of Jeremy who runs the 42nd level of hell.
No, I'm not sure if I got that or not. I've got
Oh,
all.
yeah.
I thought I got all your stuff, so I must
Yeah.
have it.
Because I liked it because it was level 42. The
I got your new book through this week because I've not been into the office for like nearly a month.
oh right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do the ladies in the office cope?
Well, me not being. There was some
Suicides.
HR was called, so Dan can't do this anymore. Can't stay off that long. It's like loads of crying and stuff in the toilets. It's awful.
Yeah.
What?
There's only so many times they can flick their bean in the toilet, isn't there? Right.
Oh my god.
Or have a hand shandy. Either's acceptable. I thought let's bump my one till next week or a couple of weeks. I've got a quickie if you want to do that one instead.
Oh yeah, go on.
Okay, right. I've had this one repped for a couple of weeks.
Oh god.
In case we had a little 5 minutes. So this is a copy of Fantasy Advertiser
Yeah.
from 1984.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah.
Nexus,
So, I believe-
Nexus and Badger on the inside cover. Is
First,
that?
first issues bring out Nexus and Badger. So
Yeah.
like a golden time, the top time. Many may argue the best time ever for comics. Yeah, I know this was when you were 3, Vince. So how old were you, Dan?
What was it? 87.
84.
God, yeah, I wasn't more like 5-6 years old. It's...
So we
missed the golden time, Dan. We were.
You can
Yeah,
buy
God,
it now.
we're-
You can,
we're
you can
shit,
buy it
aren't we?
back. Yeah, fucking savage She-Hulk. So it's got the fanzine fans' favourite competition. So it's like prize winners. And I was going to say to you, we're going to do teams. And there's the top 6 teams because there was a tie at number 3. So who do you think were the top teams in 1984 in comics? You will not get one of these, I guarantee, but you will get the others.
Okay. X-Men.
Yeah, number 1, X-Men.
Okay.
Titans.
Number 2, New Teen Titans.
Yeah. Is Justice League in there?
No,
Oh, I didn't think so. They weren't doing too well at that time, were they?
no, that was pre.
Avengers.
Avengers are number 6.
Legion.
Legion joint at number 3.
How many?
Joint.
Have we just got one?
You got
one?
2 more to guess.
Doom Patrol.
No,
I'm trying to think of obscure teams now. Avengers.
it's
have we
not
said them?
obscure at all.
Oh, okay. Avengers.
Fantastic
You said
Four.
that.
Did that.
Fantastic Four.
34.
The one you are missing, you will not get, and I don't think you
Power
might
Pack?
know who they are.
What company?
No, good shout though. Marvel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very,
are
very
they-
tangentially Marvel.
Oh.
Don't
really?
think Marvel mainstream.
Okay. So. Oh, this is really. This is a.
Let me read to you the favourite magazines of the time: Warrior, ElfQuest, Epic. This is a clue. Daredevils, Cerebus, Love and Rockets. Favourite characters were Reuben Flagg, V for Vendetta, Marvel Man, Wolverine, Cerebus, Spider-Man, Batman, Captain Britain.
Oh, man. I've.
Got a clue in there.
Yeah, no, I think there's 2 in there. I don't know. I don't know.
Get your Googling fingers out. Because the one that you couldn't get, and I didn't expect you to get, was the special executive.
Oh, man, I never would have got that.
What?
Try Googling it, guys.
Hang on. Captain Britain. Was he a Captain Britain?
Yeah.
Captain Britain foes. It says on Google.
Yeah.
I was a bit.
There's an Alan Davis poster I had on my wall as
It's
a
a
kid.
fictional group of time-traveling mercenaries appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The characters were depicted in comic strips published by Marvel UK. Initial incarnation.
Okay.
This is from Wikipedia, which is always right.
Yeah.
The initial incarnation was created by Alan Moore and David Lloyd for Doctor Who Monthly.
Yeah.
Alan Davis later expanded the lineup when they appeared in Captain Britain. Wow.
What an
There
insane
you go.
story. Wow.
There you go.
Cobweb,
So how
War Dog, Fascination, Zeitgeist.
Yeah. There's a brilliant Alan Davis poster, which is probably one of the images that will come up with all sort of standing next to each other. And I had that
Is
on my
it?
wall.
Was it
Yeah.
that? Oh,
Yes,
can't
that's the
really
one.
see
I can see it
Yeah.
now. Yeah, that's the one.
It says here, Alan Moore has said that members of the special executive, including War Dog, originate from a massive, unpublished, unfinished space opera script that he began in 1977.
Of
course
he
it does.
He
Yeah, of course it does.
shelved the project after Steve Moore offered guidance in selling shorter stories in the British comic industry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's do another one. Let's do another one because I'm
Okay.
sure you can get these.
Yeah, okay.
But
Have
1984, favorite artists.
Alan Davis.
Number 2.
Can get in. OG.
Yeah.
God.
John Byrne.
No.
No,
Surprisingly,
John Byrne.
no.
Oh. I'm trying to think.
84.
Tied into those sort of characters as well. Maybe.
Let me read to you.
Neil Adams.
No. Let me read to you favorite independent comics: American Flag, John Sable, Warrior, Nexus, Gru, Cerebus.
It's got Mike Grell,
No.
Sergio Agone.
Is Dave Sim in there?
No. You're almost there. Come on, you know what this is. You know this. Think of who the favorite teams were as well.
Oh God.
I'm really blanking, T.
Okay. Shall I read them? Well, let's do
Mate.
that. Let me read you the artists, then we can do
Go
the
on.
writers because that might help. So number 1, Howard Chaykin.
Of course,
yeah.
American Flag. Yeah.
Number 2, Alan Davis. Number 3, Frank Miller. Number 4, Brian Bolland. Number 5, George Perez. Number 6, surprise entry, Gary Leach. I think because of Marvel Man, later called Miracle Man. Okay, let's do writers. Top 6 writers.
Frank Miller.
Yeah, number 2.
Is there going to be a troublesome name in there, T? Do tell me now.
There's one you might get, but if you love me more as much as I think you do, you'll get.
Chris Claremont.
Yeah, number 4.
Mike Barron.
No.
Jeffrey Dugan. No.
I thought you were going to say Dharma.
No. Dumb.
You'll get. Come on, you know the first one. Come on. Who's the best writing comics?
Alan
Who's the
Moore.
goat? Well done. Number
Frank
2,
Miller?
you know Frank Miller. Number 2.
Yeah.
Number 3, we've just said his name.
Mike Grell.
No.
No.
Almost.
Mike.
We've just said his name. Come on.
What, Dave Sim?
No.
No.
Howard Chaykin. Number 3
Howard
is Howard
Chaykin.
Chaykin.
God.
Number 4 is Chris. Number 4 is Chris Claremont. The 2 you're missing
Yeah.
are 5 and 6.
Big names?
I think so, but just in comics,
Just in comics. Oh.
not cult, not really big cult people, cult names. Both, both have written for DC. Both have written for Marvel.
Marv Wolfman?
Well done. Number
Hey.
5. That was a bit of psychic communication there. Yeah. And number 6, you must get. And if you don't get it, you can't be my friend.
Don't say that. Oh, God. Yeah, Tony's favourite comic.
Master of Kung Fu. I know the artist, but I can't say the fucking writer.
This is like, hang on, I'm loading it.
Oh, God. We got
don't see.
hang on. He's pointing a toy gun at his head. Oh, God.
It's about to go off.
Hang on.
3,
Hang on.
2.
Hang on.
No,
Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet.
Doug
Don't do it.
Minch.
Hey! You just saved my life. The bullet just grazed
My
my
fucking
temple
Google
there.
didn't work fast enough.
I know Paul Galassi, but like the writer was like, "Oh God, Tony met him the other fucking week."
So
That is,
sad.
oh, the shame we feel right now is
You,
palpable.
you squeezed in with the friend test. It went okay. Thank God.
Throwing these questions at me at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. That's a rough one.
I just remembered I had this
Yeah.
next to a chair.
Oh dear. Fucking great. That's good fun. That is. That's fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you should do a couple of them now and then if you got some old.
Yeah, I've got
Zines.
I bought a load of fanzines recently, so they're quite cool. They're quite cool to dig
From
out.
different
yeah.
sort of years. You know, if it's a.
Do you remember we were going to do that with previews? You remember I had some old previews magazines?
Yeah.
We must do that again as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
I think those sort of. Yeah, because it's almost like what Wizard took up was like a
Yeah.
1990s version of what you
I'll
got
do
there,
a Wizard
isn't it?
one in a couple of weeks. I've got some old Wizards. I'll
Oh,
grab a
nice.
Wizard one out and do one.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Do you keep them in a sleeve?
No.
So there's no Wizard sleeves.
No, there's one in the house.
I've told my Wizard story before, haven't I? When I went into Orbit and said, "Oh, I've got a load of wizards. Do you want them?" They went, "No." So I put them all in recycling, and now I'm like, "Why'd I do that?"
They became the corners because Kayfabe used to read through them every week, didn't they?
What a fucking div. It just goes to show you, don't throw any comics away ever, or anything comics tangentially related. Don't throw it away.
Yeah.
You regret it.
Right. Look, for all those youth listening today, that perhaps you love comics now, but there may be a point where I don't know, you go to university, you go to college, you might have the comics barren years where you're not really interested in the medium, or you think you're not interested in the medium.
Don't throw them away, my friends.
Yeah, don't trust me. You'll come back to it. So
you'll regret it.
Even if you're not interested, store them.
Put them in a garage or something.
Yeah. Especially the ones you love, the ones you truly, you really
go
enjoy
to a parent,
reading.
a sibling, and say,
you only spend
hundreds,
hundreds, if not £1,000s, buying them back later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wise words.
Yeah, we're full
Ignore
of wisdom.
At your peril.
We're full of wisdom.
Very wise old fuckers we are. 3 wise old owls.
Yeah, knowledge is power. And what is knowing, Dan?
Half the battle.
There you go. And there you. Wow, what a great topic that was. Or questions. Thank you for all the questions and the topics. Yeah. I feel like certainly our lovely listeners will have thoughts on this, and we'll keep the conversation going on the Slack or on online or with their friends. Perhaps you've met up with a friend in a coffee shop and you're like, "Did you hear the latest ACP? Oh, here's what I thought about it." They're all a bunch of wankers.
Yeah.
Keep the chat going.
Tell me something I don't know.
Tony says something about beans. Shout outs?
Yes. Where have we got any shout outs this week, gents?
I've got a few. So speaking of old comics, I'd like to give a shout out to Strange Apparitions in Spalding. strangeapparitions.com in the Bay Tree Garden Centre. I've got to love the fact it's in a garden centre.
That's brilliant.
Alex is one of the most reliable people who runs a comic shop. I've got to be honest with you. I've done a bit of a deal with him this week over a big load of books. Always look at his Instagram stories because the stuff that appears on there, it's not just books, it's also toys. I like to do business with small comic shops like this. They're the people we should be doing business with. So go over to that as well.
I missed out on that Robocop gun, didn't I? The Auto 9.
Oh,
I had an Auto 9 in. It'd gone by the time I wanted them.
Sign up to be notified for the Kickstarter of launch of Shah Volume 1 from Millsverse, Pat Mills and Olivier Ledroit. A medieval witch is flung into a dystopian future, America with a K. This is going to be great. First printing of it in this sort of format. It's been serialised in English language before, but this is the place you'll get it on its own. Bridlington Comic Con is coming at you on the 15th of September. Pardon me, at the Bridlington Spa Centre. I'll be there with Falpy. They've just announced Hellbreaker artist himself, Ian Ashcroft, is going to be there as well. And he's texted me yesterday, free tables for small press at his events. And he uses the phrase, "What would a Comic Con be without comics?" So got to give him a big up for that.
Yeah.
Big shout for Andy. So I'll be buying him a beer the night of the 14th. We're travelling up, me and Falpy. Thanks to Cliff for mentioning Qvention 2 and the Awesome Comics podcast community. We are in the Frederick Post in Maryland, USA. So the ACP has made its way to Maryland into a newspaper. Who would know?
I said we got a long reach.
Yeah. There's a picture of us all in the murder basement that we all had dinner in that night. So
you could try and get away with this, and you think, now this is far enough. Surely it's not far enough.
What's in the centre pages of this newspaper? So thanks to Cliff for writing that up.
Cheers, Cliff.
Very kind. There you go, there, my ones.
Nice. Dan, what have you got?
I've got Space Boy and the Future King, young Arthur and his strange new acquaintance, UFOs, dragons, and a 5th century Batman, launching soon. That's a Kickstarter campaign. Do sign up for that from One Pot Comics. Shout out to Mike Marshall. The two of us have been working on Fist and an All-Star fan comic that's going to be coming out.
I didn't know this, mate.
Soon. Yeah, I've been keeping this close to my chest, but you guys hopefully get some copies of that. It's been a lot of fun. He's given me some books and stuff and some lovely Berserk stuff because he was over in Japan recently. He's got me
oh, wow.
They did a tribute to Mimura, who was the artist on Berserk, and he passed recently. And I think all these artists got together and did a comic.
Well, I've heard about this, yeah.
It's all in Japanese, so I've not read it yet. I'm going to have to get a bit of Google Translate on it. But it's like, this seems like, wow, this is a big deal having this.
It's like France. I'm so jealous of their scene over there.
Yeah, it's really solid. I mean, when you were saying earlier about they're taking the piss out of the UK scene, it was like, yeah, guilty as charged. It's not great. What are you going to say that we haven't said to ourselves a million times already? So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's and we've obviously got the anime. August is kicking along. Me and Zach punching out every day. Like I say, he does this like 1 a.m. and I'm posting mine up at 6 a.m. So
Still great though, man. Yeah,
yeah.
still great. And it's a
Cheers,
year for
fellas.
you at the end of this month, isn't it?
Now I've got to get to end of September. I started on
Okay.
Robtober, so I've got 1 more month.
What's September?
We're doing a superhero thing. Ross Radke has done a thing where you every day you've got like a drawing prompt. You spin a coin whether it's going to be heads, male, female, or other, and you basically got to come up with a concept for a superhero for that day, be it a villain or a hero.
Okay.
So that'd be
Oh,
interesting.
nice.
So
Interesting.
rather than draw pre-established characters, you're going to be making your own one a day.
Don't you realise that you've made a rod for your own back because you are finishing just as Inktober begins? So I know what you're like. You'll be going sitting there with full of FOMO watching people doing Inktober.
I won't, Tony. I've been doing this for a year. I won't be feeling that at all.
He'll
That's
be
what
looking
we-
at you going, you're a bunch of fucking mugs. Try doing it for 12 months.
Well, I've got as
You got a
I've
new
got
project, haven't you?
yet to be announced. I've got a new project coming up, so I'm gonna have to focus my energies on that. And we've got Grim Scary Tales 2 coming out in October for Halloween, so I've got to get going on that too. So
Oh,
a
mate.
lot of shit to do.
Good man.
Busy man. So let's recommend some comics so we can get back to work in the Butcher Dungeon.
Get to work.
Where the magic happens. What comics have we got this week, chaps? Tony, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I've got like a wonderful manga to start with. Tokyo These Days, Volume 1. It's by Taiyo Matsumoto, translated by Michael Arias. Hardback, 214 pages. It's by the I think it's Signatures service by Viz Signature. So they tend to do like the nicer format. This is a hardback, 214 pages. It's that mixture, that manga mixture of black and white on some pages and the odd bit of color. Where I'm guessing in the Takaban or whatever it was in the collection, it's been given like. You know, I always used to think that this was 2000 AD. Some stories were given a couple of pages of color, weren't they? Occasionally, and I think it's a bit like that with manga. So you get the odd little snatch of color in it. Originally published between 2019 and 2023 in chapters. As I said, in Big Comic Original Zokan, which is one of those magazine format phone books I have over there. I saw it pop up on the 11 o'clock Slack by Vince Bond, who said the perfect manga hasn't. He did that whole joke. The perfect manga hasn't been made. ... And then a picture of this. So I bought it immediately. I read it yesterday morning and wrote my notes on it yesterday morning. And then literally an hour ago, I haven't finished his review of it, but him and I were very much like-minded about it, but came at it in different ways, interestingly. So I think my review might, if for anyone who's listened to that 11 o'clock comics episode that's just come out, they might get something different from the way I talk about it. But we both loved it. It was a real breath of fresh air reading it yesterday morning. It's just 3 volumes. The first 2 are out. I've ordered the second one that arrives tomorrow, and the third one is out in October. It's a tale of a manga editor called Kazuo Shiozawa, and his sudden retirement, his change of life, his friends and old colleagues, and his realization that he can't quite get out of the game. And he decides to create something special and goes back in looking for an old lineup. That's the kind of the summary. If I was going to write something on previews or something, I'd probably write it like that. Chapter 1 is called Today I'm Retiring for Personal Reasons, and it opens on the most beautiful, rainy local area, like almost like a suburban area out on the outskirts of Tokyo, where everyone lives and there's shops. It's not like the massive tower blocks and the big, whenever we see Tokyo in a film, it's always that crossing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always that,
That big, is it a Tsushima? And like they got all it's nuts.
And it's I watch stuff like Tokyo Diner and stuff, and I prefer the little more local areas of stuff. And Mr. Shiozari, he's a quiet, measured, very sort of introspective and quiet dude. And he's got a talking bird as a companion in his manga, in it. They have these little things. So it's quite a realistic manga, but there's a talking bird. Of course there is, with manga. I think he's in his 50s. And he's a little bit ashamed that his recent series got cancelled for bad numbers. And throughout this, there is a discussion about how print comics are failing. There's a little bit of a reflection on what we've just done, actually, funny enough. He feels like he's having a midlife crisis, to be honest with you. And he decides he's going to sell. He goes almost to the point of selling all of his massive manga collection and clearing out his apartment and making this apartments, as I understand it, in Tokyo are smaller than what we would have as a family house, and he just has this small apartment, and it becomes this empty room, so it doesn't quite get to the point of selling it. It reminds me of like a Wim Wenders movie. It's got that sort of indie movie feel to it.
Okay.
There's sequences of him walking about in the rain. There's one bit where his umbrella, I posted it, didn't I, in the Slack, his umbrella flies off into the sky, and so what he does in that period, he heads off and he meets up with friends and colleagues, old and new, and they've all got their own dramas going on, and they've all got their own complications in their lives going on. One artist, who's this big old fat dude, he's and his appearance is a metaphor for his attitude as well, weirdly. So he's kind of been a very successful manga creator, and he's there's just no spark. And Mr. Shirazawa, he's got to this point in his life where he can, from his position as this retired man, and he's somebody who's been an editor, he can tell people their truths. You know, he says to him, "Look, you're not as good as you used to be." And this dude reacts badly at start, but it sinks in slowly, and he thinks about it. He thinks he's right about that, you know.
Yeah.
There's another younger man he's like this sort of lanky bohemian, almost goth, long dark hair. He's always screaming at people. He's always drunk, and he's full of anger at the world around him. And there's this female editor who's trying to help him, and he's not really punching how he should be anymore. And Shirazawa goes to see him, and he gives them advice and stuff like that. And he goes to see this. There's another artist who's working in a supermarket. So he's been her editor, and she's produced something. And he goes to meet her in the supermarket where she's on the till, and he says, "Look, I really liked your stuff. I'm thinking of starting something up. Would you like to get involved?" And she says, "I haven't drawn in 10 years. I don't know whether I could." And she sort of kind of turns him down, but you follow her about a bit for the chapter in the book, and she goes home and she starts drawing. She thinks, "Can I do it?" And it's this lovely, gentle story. There's no explosions, there's no massive robots. It's not that kind of manga. And he goes to a funeral, Shirazawa, at one point, and he meets a woman in a studio, and it's never like overtly said that she's a ghost, but you think she might be a ghost of a creator,
Okay.
of a mangaka. And he's like, and from that and from a few other things that happen to him along the way, he decides to do this thing. He decides, right, I'm going to get going. I'm going to get this. I'm going to use my retirement money, and I'm going to start this new comic up. And it's really interesting. So it does talk about the nature of the manga industry. It talks about the nature of retirement. It talks about the nature of the art and where art should come from, and how some people are just walking the walk without putting their heart into it. Very much relates to all art, really, but it relates to our favorite art. It's not one of those mangas. We see a lot of mangas, the more the sort of teenage manga, which is like a panel on this page, 2 panels on that page. This is very much paneled out, so
Okay,
you would
that's good.
easily have 5-6 panels on a page. It's still A5-ish, it's still, but what they'll do is they will sweep out and have just a lovely detailed vision of a cityscape.
I love it when they do that in those books.
Yeah,
It's gorgeous.
yeah, really lovely. And I love rain in comics. I love weather in comics, to be fair. And there's like this rainy Tokyo. I'm a big fan of Haruki Murakami, and he often describes the rain in his novels. And if you look at the movies of Katana Takeshi, there's always water as a symbolism in them. And I think what Matsumoto's doing here is he's doing a similar thing. And this end of life, like wilderness years dude, is this editor is walking through his umbrella, and it's raining, and the umbrella gets blown away. And there's no good looking people in it. It's not a book of heroic, good looking
real, isn't
women.
it?
It's just these old people. My favorite is this massively fat dude. He looks like the Kingpin. That's what he looks like.
It's a big
And he goes to pick up this
unit.
he goes to pick up this crazy goth kid on his bicycle, and the kid goes, "Do you really want me to get on the back?" And he goes, "Yeah, get on the back of the bike." And like he's cycling along, and this massive dude's having real trouble, and the kid's saying, "Are you all right?" He says, "Don't worry about me." He's like, "Don't like that," and just sort of keeps cycling on. It's lovely to read. I haven't read that much manga last few weeks, and occasionally you dip back into it and you realise how accomplished these people are. He did Cats of the Louvre. Do you remember that being advertised?
Oh God, yeah, I remember that. That's a while back.
Same creator did that. Yeah, so that's my first one. Tokyo These Days, Volume 1. There you go.
It was Shibuya Crossing. I had to interject
Oh,
there.
well
I
done, mate.
said the wrong
Nice
name.
one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, the
Shibuya
one we
Crossing.
always see. They always do it in fast forward, don't they? With all these
Yeah,
people
loads.
crossing. It's like, yeah.
Well, look up. There's like on every crossing, there's about 1,000 people.
Bloody hell.
Quite a few people.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've got to go there one day. We were planning to
Yeah.
go there soon. I've got to go there. Really want to.
Dan, what have you
There you
got there?
I saw a book on social media and I reached out to the creators and said, like, I was hoping to read this digitally because I can't seem to find a physical copy. And it was Tunis to Sydney by Miriam and Christian Carnouche, illustrated by Sam Rapley. The blurb on the back of the book is meet Leela and Bill. Their happiness in sunny Sydney has been unshakable until that day. When Leela receives a devastating news of her parents' tragic death, a staggering 10,000 miles away, she's consumed by a profound sense of shock. The weight of unspoken questions surfaces. Did she fail her parents by not being there for them throughout the years? As they hastily journey from for Tunis to the funeral, Bill stands steadfastly by Leela's side, offering unwavering support. Yet this journey unveils the fault lines in Leela's life, leading to her to confront a cascade of profound questions. An olive tree, symbol of peace and healing, owned by Lida's parents, becomes a center of attention and triggers a dramatic situation that will change her forever. So it's not an autobio comic, but speaking to Christian, who was on socials, it's very much inspired by, because it's written by the husband and wife couple, and it deals with pretty much what it says on the back there. With it focuses generally on the leader character, and then the chap comes in a bit later where she sort of struggles to kind of move past this situation with the parents. So I really enjoyed it. I got to say, at some points I was like, man, this is I'm feeling this. Like,
Nice gentle book, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
The who can't relate to sort of losing a kind of a loved one or a parent. I touch wood, I've not gone through that yet, but
I told you that I mean, I've lost both my parents, and there's a bit she talks about where she's going through the souk and she thinks she sees her dad.
yes.
And I've done the same. I've
Okay.
caught out of the corner of my eye and thought,
So was that
no.
them?
Yeah. That's weird.
Some of the artistic sequences, especially when they're going through that sequence, it's so good. It's just like God. It's like you're there. Like I felt like I could feel the heat and the sight and the sounds of this kind of like the markets and all these people bustling around. It was really well done, and it sort of ends with the feelings of the female character. She projects onto an olive tree that her mum didn't plant, and her mum was big on her gardening, and she wants to bring that back to Australia, and that becomes a bit of a flashpoint of what her emotional state.
Yeah, she imprints on that tree, doesn't she? And she's not allowed to bring it back.
Yeah. It's interesting because the book had second guessed where I was going and where I think readers are guessing, because if you've ever watched one of those national border things in Australia, and then when they got like the customs and excise, and someone's trying to bring in like a bit of fruit and they fucking come down on
There's always people who go, have you got anything in your bag? And they know, and then they've got like
No.
400 pounds of dried apricots or
Yeah.
something in their bag, haven't
We've
they?
got like a half a metric ton of like wildlife and fruits and stuff. It's like, when you put on your boarding card, you said you didn't have any of this. You put no. So yeah, well you do, didn't you? So, yeah. And it's like,
Yeah, they just go, yeah.
Yeah, you get charged loads and loads of money for it. So obviously this olive tree becomes a bit of a problem getting it back through customs, but it's got an absolute excellent resolution of how that all works out, and everyone feels like a real person. It's really well done. I was one of those books I picked up, started reading it, and just blasted all the way through. Art kind of goes from kind of being quite realistic to quite sketchy in places, but yeah, really enjoyable. I mean, there's a page I'm looking at here where they fly back to Sydney, and you've got the plane banking over Sydney, and there's like a landscape full page spread, and it's like, man, that's absolutely good. That took some time to do that. So yeah, I really recommend this book. If you can get hold of a comic copy, I'd certainly suggest.
Yeah, I really dug it, man. I mean, Look,
Yeah.
I've got a very small niggle with it, and it comes from the sort of I really enjoyed this. I know you sent it my way, and you said how do you feel about it? Now, I could tell that you liked it, so I
Yeah.
already had it built up, and it did meet those expectations with me, which is unusual when when you've got a book that's sort of stuck up there. Is I would say some of the lettering on the titles of pages is a inappropriate font for
Agreed.
what it's
Yeah.
doing. There's a couple of things that say in the souk or something like that, Tunis, and I think that it looks a bit more sort of sci-fi, the titling,
Yeah, it
than
opens up with a lovely page, and it says like Clovelly Beach, Sydney, Spring 2024, and it felt like, are we going to go into the future or something? Like,
yeah. I think a hand letter that. I
yeah,
think in much or put it on a signpost for the beach, or there's a couple of more.
yeah. If you
Just
was
it
to go
just
at that
punch it up
again,
to another
yeah,
level. It just punch
yeah,
it up to a bit more. I think. But yeah, no, I think great book. I also recreated the cover in my garden for you.
yeah, that totally went over my head, and
Yeah.
Tony thought I mugged him off. So
Tony
apologies for
sends so
that.
many images of him doing weird stuff that we were like, well, that's Tony being Tony again. That
I even
and
put a pair of shorts on for it.
No,
yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
mate,
Yeah,
it's
real-
a lovely homage.
one for
Thank
the
you.
bank. One for the bank.
Yeah. Can I just quickly insert a quick second one, if you don't mind? Literally 1 minute. Resurgence of the Valiant Universe, part 1 of 4.
Oh, mate, yeah, I read this. Yeah,
Fucking hell!
it's
Here
lovely
we
stuff.
go.
Yeah.
Is it good?
It brought back my
Really good.
confidence
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
Valiant universe. It's not all perfect. I didn't really like the voice of Faith, but then I think that's more the fact I've never liked the voice of Faith.
Oh, mate, that
appears
was.
in.
So
Breaks up some of
they get the character right. It's just that
Which
you're not a fan of the
fucking
character.
annoying.
If that's the
They're-
way if the character's supposed to be really annoying, you fucking done a great job.
So they're in this like massive, massive thing, the world destruction, and you got her going, "Oh, what about this? Oh, shut up!"
Yeah.
But the which is a hating character, but the stuff that they do with Exo and the stuff they do with Gilad and Apada, just fucking hell, just brilliant, lovely artwork.
Does anyone say at any point, "We've got this"?
For this, I don't recall
They
them saying
don't.
that.
Thank fuck they don't.
It
Yeah.
does. It's not. It's kind of feels really kind of fresh and well handled and considered, and it's not just kind of something. It feels like corporate IP that's been dashed off.
No, we're back in the land of the reboot in
I was
the
like,
2010s.
I'm loving this.
with
This
it.
is yeah.
Yeah, really, really good. Really enjoyed it.
Nice.
I'm
And you've got all
I
these
got
characters-
excited reading it.
They've got like
Yeah.
their own kind of motivations and reasons for doing stuff, and they feel like that when they're interacting. It's not just I'm doing this because this is the right thing to do. I really enjoyed it. I love seeing it.
Exo is a fucking beast. He is
Yeah.
Conan in Iron Man armor.
Yeah.
He is the most dangerous figure in the universe, and they properly pull it off.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't really say what it's about because it's not out yet, but we got a preview, so I think it's a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, but it comes out.
Yeah.
Make sure you get on it. It's
Yeah.
4 issues.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got to read this. My recommend this week is another one. I discovered it on Global Comics on their like some of their most popular comics this week because they've got loads of different sections. And I was caught by a book called Maeve by Jeremy Skeele. It's free on Global Comics if you want to check it out now. And I'm always browsing to see what's there. And this is an interesting one because the art is not for me. The art feels very childlike.
Normie man.
Yeah, it feels very childlike in its own way. This is no slut on the career. Wait until what I'm going to get to.
Is it the artist by the writer?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a vertical scrolling book, and there were 6 chapters of it. I started, so I just basically kept going. It was only like 11 pages per one, so I was like, next release. It was a quick read. But the story that was being told captured my imagination. Before I knew it, I was like, because at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. Sometimes when you see a lot of books online, they're very unfinished, or sometimes it could be someone's first ever comic, and we don't know how old they are or whatever. So I was like, okay, but there's something about the writing that sort of drew me in, and I kept reading it. And then by the time I finished the part 6, I was like, that's quite an interesting story that they're telling there. It didn't fit with necessarily the visuals that were going on there, but I was like, the writing was pretty sound, and I was like, oh,
It's a bit of a poetry to the writing, isn't it?
There is a real poetry to it. I didn't realise there was another couple of releases by Jeremy on there. There are smaller releases. One of them's about a robot on this planet, and the other one's about an and like a shooting star, and they're all seemingly part of this same universe and this same story. They clearly care about it. They clearly got a story for it. You know, I absolutely commend them because they're just, rather than in this day and age as well, they're doing it all themselves. So no matter who they are, they're fair play. The tale of Maeve is the only person on her planet who is sick, and until now she has no idea why. Even the synopsis of these books are pretty simple and like one line. It was a nice little science fiction story that I read that potentially could open up to other things. And it was an interesting reading experiment for me because I was reading it, and then my brain started thinking, and this is no disrespect to the person that made it, it was like, oh, if there was another art style that could go with it, I'm not saying that there's another art style, but if they had like an artist, you know, another art could make something quite big with this, you know. Thankfully, also, this is not someone who's chosen to do an AI art for something like that. Because
I'd definitely say consider another artist.
Yeah. But this is someone just making their own comics. I think this comes from Reddit as well. It's a Reddit comic. It's someone that's just on these forums, because I read some comments on there, sort of said, I came over from Reddit and I love that they're getting good word of mouth. You know, people are enjoying these books. This book has had 208,000 views.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
And there's a lot of big titles on there, like Vault and stuff, that they're in the thousands. A title like Berserker, the Keanu Reeves one.
Keanu Reeves.
That's got 144, I think, thousand. So, I mean, these are quick reads, and certainly, like with digital reading, you can pick things. You know, the consumption of it. You know, it doesn't necessarily. But I was like, that's quite a. If people, what an interesting. How did they get this? Because I can't really find anything about the author. So, you know, there wasn't so much I could do in the time that I had to find out about their past work or what they're doing, how old they are, where they are, you know, anything like that. I was just seeing what I could see. And to have an audience come in and do that much from these other forums, like, Dan, you know, there's Reddit forums on everything, isn't there, for like comics? And
God,
people build audiences from that, don't they, as well? And you don't know, you know, there could be these young audiences that then come over to this because it's a free comic as well. People are just reading it. You know, that number was like, it doesn't make me skeptical of what it is, because it clearly seems...
man, yeah, it's a big old number.
Because
it does make me think that people maybe need to be exposed to comics that have better art to get those numbers up as well. That person is clearly doing something that's getting their numbers up. Yeah. I'm not saying dishonesty, I'm saying completely honestly. And I just think the lessons can be learned from that.
Yeah. I mean, I did notice, because this one's broken down. I mean, we've got 208,000, but that's on the total. So you can see, for instance, when
it's
it
free
breaks
as
down,
well, though, to be fair.
Exactly. Part 1, 66k, and the other ones are like 25k, you know?
Right.
But then they've built up that following so that their latest release has got 88. So there's there's that sort of knowledge of, well, if you build up a bit of a following and to things like this, people will come back for your new one. I mean, I know nothing about it, but it was certainly something I'm going to look more into. But at the end of the day, I quite enjoyed this little tale, and it's sort of piqued my interest about maybe some further investigation about what's going on here. But so that's Maeve. Maeve by Jeremy Skeele. Jeremy, well done. You're making comics at the end of the day.
But like, could you slam on black on?
I probably
could
put
black on there.
Yeah, I could probably.
It's a vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that'd be interesting.
There's a
thought-provoking.
I've got a link here. I'll send it after the show. But if you've got a comic, you basically just upload the comic to JPEGs and it'll stitch it together for you as
nice
scroll and graphic.
Oh, that's good.
Nice. Creator tools, always good. Tony, what's your last one?
So my last one is The Unsleeping Eye. I got this through on Kickstarter a couple of days ago by Brian Level and Kurt Belcher. I bought it sight unseen on Level's name alone, to be fair. Sadly, he's not the main artist on it, but I love Brian Level's stuff. And very fortunately got in early with his OA, and I got a couple of pieces from him, but it's unaffordable now. Massively unaffordable. So it's written by Level and Belcher, art by Belcher. letters and grey tones by level, published by the small press outlet called Dream Cult. The Looky-Loos of Franklin Avenue. It's part 1 or 2, so it's the first issue of a 2-part story. It's 40-page black and white horror first issue. I'm going to question the wiseness of doing it as 2 issues. I think this would have been a more sensible release as a single issue or a graphic novel, if you want to call it that. The town is a place called Mercurial, and it appears to be a small town in Middle America. It's infested with demons called Oddfellows, who are these humanoid, but they've got like disfigured faces and big mouths and tongues, and just that sort of real horrible kind of demons. And there's a couple of humans who are there, and they're in white suits and hats, and they distribute the newspaper called the Unsleeping Eye, and it also gives people hope. This newspaper, it's a strange idea. It's not a normal idea, this, and it took me a while to get my head around it, but there's an unsteady and unsafe and uncertain ceasefire going on between the people in the white suits who distribute the Unsleeping Eye and the demons. Also in the town are the people who live in the town. So there's this one family, and every night these demons appear at the window and tap at the window to frighten this girl. And this family is massively plagued by these demons, and they become the center of this mystery. And Bean and Rivera are the ones in the white suits called Eyes. And they're kind of the protection, but they can't act. There's a couple of moments where there's almost a standoff. One of them's got a knife, and the demons are going, "Come on, if you do something, all hell is going to break loose." And the demons are kind of pushing it as far as they can. And these people are kind of they're trying to control the violence and control the town and distribute this newspaper, which is the one little bit of shining hope in the town. But there's something more going on with this family. There's a deeper mystery going on with this family who are plagued by the demons. Dude, we don't quite know what it is. Gloriously in black and white. Lovely art, actually. It's not level, but it's really good still. It's not fairy tales. It's more VHS 1983 horror, if you put it that way. Disfigured mouths and toothy mouths and murder and rape in the mines. And that the demons just want anarchy. They just want disorder. But we see this newspaper as something that is perhaps the only thing that these poor people in this town who are trapped there, surrounded by these demons, can do. And it did take me a few pages to get into it. But when you get into that sleazy adult horror vibe, but also this kind of almost what you're given as being a simplistic black and white world of demons and good guys is not. It's a metaphor for modern politics. It's a metaphor for victims and killers. It's a metaphor for people who aren't what they seem and stuff like that. And there's a real creeping sense of discomfort as you read it. It builds on the tension. It's only 2 issues. I'm going to say I'll be back in the next one. I just got the digital one because it's an American release. So buying it to be posted 2 years, it will be a nightmare. But if you look it up on Kickstarter, The Unsleeping Eye, and I think you'll probably be able to get a copy after they're all sent out. But I would say watch out for the second Kickstarter, because it undoubtedly will be that one where you can get both copies.
Yeah. Oh, so nice one. That sounds good.
Nice.
Last one. There you go.
There you go. Lots of comics talk, topics, just everything. My brain is positively fizzing with everything we talked about. We went in all directions this week, didn't we, chaps? From lettering to legacies to small press comics to manga. We've got everything this show. Everything. So why would you listen to anything else? That's what I say. Seriously though, thank you for listening to the show, everyone.
Yeah, cheers.
I hope you enjoyed it, and it's whenever you listened, whether it be the start of the week, have a great week. At the end of the week, that was a week, wasn't it?
Have a good weekend,
and have a lovely weekend. But if there's anything in this show, or perhaps you want some topics you want us to talk about in the future, or if you've got any events coming up that you want us to shout out about, then please do get in touch. There's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. On social media with at awesomecomicspod on Instagram, where we're posting up pictures and doing covers and like our posts, get involved, get interactive, all of that jazz. And because it's interesting to see what is responsive on things like that. I mean, we're small little social media accounts in a.
Yeah,
we're tiny, so it's
interesting. Man, it's hard as ever to get any kind of fucking traction nowadays.
Yeah. So we just try and post up some nice artwork and
see
what people say. And we're also on X at the Awesome Pod, where we'll be posting up the episode and retweeting good stuff, etc. Thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com, on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, leave a review. It helps get the word out about the show and all the comics we talk about and the creators we talk about on a weekly basis. We're also on Spotify. Leave a nice 5-star review on there, please, if you can. That'd be lovely.
Good.
And we're also on Amazon, Stitcher, Podknife. Actually, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. That comic is so shit, it could be laying on the chest of Katie Price in a selfie.
Oh, jeez, don't.
That's pretty shit.
Not Google.
Do not look that up.
No.
Yeah, no.
But what you could look up is where we are online. Tony, where can people find you?
NeverOnAnything.com. We've just dropped another podcast. Me and Tom Stewart talks about a load of recent releases, and we talk about the very controversial Peep Show number 15. So go and have a listen.
Tom does a great job of encapsulating the deeply frustrating experience of trying to get a comic on Amazon or find a comic.
Yeah, because he's not a regular to the digital buy.
Yeah.
And we basically said what comes out. We'll choose something on Wednesday, podcast about it on Friday. And he had a fucking nightmare trying to figure it out. So God knows how Joe Public does it.
Yeah.
I struggle every week trying to find a fucking cover. You know, we do our cover picks. Trying to get to this week's comic releases.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. When I've looked, I'm like, that's quite a good. What do you mean pre-order? That's not a new release.
I've got to
then,
change the dates and all this sort of thing.
Yeah. Even if you change the dates, it still appears as a pre-order. I've been burned by that because
I can't get Can't get high-res pictures of him. They will have to be like, open this image in another tab.
I do screenshots and stuff like that. Oh, we're so professional.
I have to say that both IDW and DC this week couldn't be bothered to load an image of their cover up for a comic that is released on that same day.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Fucking hell.
Unbelievable. When you just sort of think, oh, I'm worried about comics going to digital. I wouldn't. The publishers can't be fucking bothered uploading a JPEG, so they're not going to go anytime soon. That's Tony. Dan, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com. You're going to come check my work out on Patreon. I'm going to offer up that Fist and North Star comic to potential patrons. So
nice.
Be on that.
I'm on that.
Or B Square. Still got a few Dune sketchbooks. If you're interested in having one of them, give us a shout.
They're lovely, mate. They're really good.
Thank you, Charles.
Nice. Yeah, you can find me online on social media at Jess the Diablo. Thank you very much for listening to this week's show. Plenty more comics goodness to come as we're just chilling out and having some fun. It
did bank holiday weekend next weekend.
It is indeed.
It is indeed.
It's come around quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're all going back to school soon.
That sounds quite pervy.
Yeah, damn.
Well, I've had because my wife works in the school and son goes to school. They've both been off for 6 weeks. So
what do you do when they're not about? Do you put the splash mats down?
Yeah,
put hamster on?
You just absolutely hammer it.
Pull yourself around the house.
The Kilburn and Dexter.
You look like Stretch Armstrong.
He's like doing that hop around the house.
Yeah.
That's like Tom Cruise Risky Business. Skidding around in the hallway.
I would pay for that video.
Yeah. It may be on Dan's OnlyFans in the future. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Where can we find you, Vince?
I've already said.
Have you said it? I missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But at Jester Diablo on social media. There you go. Find me there.
No goats this week.
I am the goat.
No goats. Is there?
I am the goat, baby.
Yeah.
Did you see the video that Simon Russell put up of his dog with a stick, and it just says, "How good's this stick?" And this dog got this fucking massive stick.
I appreciate stick game.
Yeah.
It sounds like a new show on Netflix, but it's not. Anyway, come back, same bat time, same bat channel for more comics talk and great stuff. So have a brilliant week no matter where you are in the world. We hope you're enjoying the comics that you're making and that you're reading and that you still love the medium, because God knows we do. So we'll see you back here next week for more chat from Dan, Tony and myself in ACP Towers. Have a brilliant week. And what else should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
He still does the stay. Stay. Yeah.
I pointed at the camera there.
Yeah. I know. Well, it's nice for us.
Audio fans.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Wave to them.
Bye.